You really can pick two of three: gym owner, coach, athlete. Pick two. Trying to do all three is really tough. You usually burn yourself out.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk.
All right, Chandler. So the first question I have for you is, are you done competing?
You know what's funny? I say that I am, and then every once in a while, especially right now, I'm beginning to itch like crazy because I'm surrounded by super strong people for the first time in a while. My gym that I had in California was more of a coaching facility. So a lot of people there were more intermediate beginners. A lot of people were just trying to get their foot in the door in the powerlifting world. At my gym now, we've only been open 3 weeks. We have 4 people that total over 2,000. So from a motivational standpoint, I'm getting that itch, and I'm like already seeing myself talking shit and, you know, getting hyped up and wanting to compete against everybody. And it's kind of lighting a fire into my ass a little bit.
So your last meet was what, 2024?
2024.
Okay. Now, was there a strongman thing or anything after that?
No, I didn't compete in strongman after that. I actually trained similar to like Tom Havlin. So going more for like physical preparedness, which has a lot of strongman, you know, events and movements in it. So the thing that's cool about strongman, I think people don't think about, is it's kind of like the middle ground between athletic training and barbell movements, you know? So think about like a farmer carry, for example. Like you're still moving with weight. So essentially you can say it's like on teetering towards like, say, doing a sprint because you're moving forward. But because you're still loaded, and you can load the piss out of a farmer. I mean, I've done 350 a hand. You know, you go pretty heavy on them. That's also going to carry your deadlift as well. So it's one of those few, especially heavy carries, tends to see carryover to both, which is where, like, say you're a tactical athlete or you're like police officer, firefighter, military, you see carryover from the strongman events to everything, where they're going to build some muscle, make them more like classically functional, in my opinion, not like circus, you know, functional, where you're like standing on a Bosu ball in one leg and true functional. But it usually has carryover to the athletic movements as well. I think without the risk too. I think, say you're doing like, if you're strong and you do like a sprint on like flat ground, I mean, that's like one of the most dangerous things you can do. The chances of popping something are super high. It's just super high velocity. So anyways, that's what I liked about the strongman events for myself. It allowed me to gain some athleticism back that I lost during powerlifting.
Well, you started when you were around 13, right?
Yeah.
Right. So with close to 20 years competing in these strength sports, looking back, what did it cost you?
Oh, fuck.
Because you're still in that weird time frame right now.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of out, but you're not.
Yeah. And I think right now that's kind of a lot of it. I mean, my last meet, I remember, it's funny, I was actually listening to your podcast with J.M. Blakely, and he said that he knew when it was time to retire, when he said it was costing more than when it was giving back.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I felt after my last meet in 2024. Like, my health was in the shitter. My knees were super jacked. I tore my pec. I've torn my hip. You know, I just was in so much pain. Bending over to tie my shoes was it's like the worst thing I could ever do every day, you know? And it was just, I got to the point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, what's the cost benefit ratio really here anymore? You know? I think part of it too is like,
your numbers were still good though.
Yeah.
I mean, they were actually your best right around the time.
I just hit my best numbers.
And when you're talking about things like bending over and tying your shoes, you can look back on it now and think that, but at that time, you're kind of like, you're either used to it, you're not dreading it.
It's just part of everyday life. Like,
I mean, it's kind of a reward because you'll brag about it, kind of like you're talking about now. Right. Like back then, you're like, dude, I can't even put my shoes on. This is amazing. I'm almost there. Yeah. I'm almost ready.
Yeah.
So it's when you get further removed and you look back, then you start, but at that time, you were kind of processing the cost of the whole thing.
Yeah.
What other factors are playing into that?
I think the other one was, funnily enough, I got married in 2024 as well. So, and I bought a house in 2024, and that was kind of like all the, you know, best things in my life kind of happened all at once. It's like I hit my big lifetime goal was totaling over 2,000 raw. I hit that, I bought a house, and I got married all within 3 months. And it's funny, like, I feel like because like I was like in this like peak feeling almost where like, man, everything's so good. The thought of like putting myself through another meet again, I just wasn't there. I just didn't have it in me. And I'm also too, when I compete in something and I do something, I'm going all in. I'm not half in the bag. I just don't function that way. I'm like that with everything I do. I mean, even with my business I just started, like I didn't fuck around when it came to buying equipment. I bought all the nicest stuff, which is why I bought a lot of stuff from y'all. But the other thing too is like I worked 16, 18-hour days. I still am, working 16-hour days, putting my whole like heart and like life into it, because I feel like if you want to accomplish anything, you have to approach it with that type of mindset. Either in or you're out.
It's different though, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're all in with the training, you have constant feedback.
Yeah.
That training session, it was a good session. I did good. I'm moving forward. Oh, it was a shitty session. That wasn't a good session. I'm not moving so much forward. I have to kind of pivot and change.
Yeah.
And business doesn't work like that.
No, there's more ebbs and flows.
Way more. And you don't see the return.
Yeah.
And you may not see the return. You've had gyms for 15 years, 10 years, a decade.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't see the return for way longer, but you're putting in all the hours and all the hours.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
It's not. It's funny. I will say for me personally, it's the same. It's the same but different is kind of the way I look at it for myself, because you have to be patient. You know what I mean? In the sense of like, with powerlifting, I think it's like you said, it's more immediate. You do a session, you're like, that was great. All right, I'm doing good. I'm progressing nicely. You do another session and you're like, that felt like shit. I'm probably under recovering. Mm-hmm. My shoulder feels like it's going to blow off.
Then it's like where you are.
Yeah, you know where you are. You can make adjustments based on that feedback, right? With business, sometimes those adjustments come out of nowhere. I mean, sometimes just simple as a competitor showing up down the street you didn't see coming, or maybe the trends of whatever is changing, the demographics around you shift, things like that, like the uncontrollables, right?
See, that's a big difference right there, though, because in powerlifting, or if it's strongman or whatever it is, your competitor really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't change what you have to do to be able to be better. The trends really don't matter. Because you still have to do what you have to do to be able to get better.
Yeah.
Where those do matter, in the business setting. So it's weird, right? Because you're used to just having all the focus on you.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I have to do. I have X, Y, Z, and all this other kind of stuff. And you want to not pay attention.
Yeah.
To all those other factors and variables that kind of play into it. Where here, you kind of have to pay attention.
Yep.
Kinda. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But not always. Sometimes you pay too much attention. So there's lessons that you can learn there, but they don't apply here.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to be able to think about.
Yeah. I think the lesson that I did get out of it, that like kind of what I was trying to get to, or trying to come up with the words with, was the patience though. Because with building a business, right, there's going to be ebbs and flows, but as long as you're trending slightly upward, right, it doesn't feel like it, right? Mm-hmm. It may feel a lot of the times like, man, I feel like I'm going backwards. Like, I feel like I'm actually losing money, or I'm not going the other way. I feel like I'm not progressing. But then in 5 years, you're like, man, like I remember when I was maybe profiting 50, 60 grand, or I'm doing whatever. And now my business is bigger. I'm doing better. I have more employees. I'm doing all this stuff, whatever. You see it later. So I think that's the part where it has some relation, is the patience, and as long as you're trending upwards. That's like the part that I feel like is similar, but the feedback timing is way different,
Yeah, like sometimes you're going to be trending downwards.
Oh, 100%.
Business for a long time.
I mean, even with training, it was like that though. You get fucked up, you tear your fucking shit off. Like, you're trending downwards during then too.
Interesting though. I like this conversation, because when you get injured and you screw something up, because in business, when you screw something up, you have to look at why you're screwing it up.
Yes.
And then you may have to do things completely different than what you were doing, but a lot of business owners will not do it because they want to stick to what was always working before. But in training, when you screw something up, you have to change your training to be able to have it more rehab focused.
Yep.
Right. Which is kind of the parallel to in the business. You have to change the training to be able to do things you do that you wouldn't do. A lot of the rehab shit you're not going to do.
Yeah.
If you tear a pec, you're not going to do pec rehab.
No.
Pec's fine.
Yeah. No, it forces you to flip the script.
Yeah.
Right. Which is in business though, I feel like you said, some people get stubborn and they're not willing to flip the script. They're not willing to try something different. and try something to keep their business afloat.
Yeah, sometimes it has to be like doing the rehab crap
Yeah,
that you wouldn't normally
exactly. And you know what's funny? I learned that with my gym in California. So when I first started it,
when did you start that?
I started it in 2014. So when I started it, I was young. I was only 22. I was a baby. I was also paying school my own way. So, you know, I didn't really get financial aid. That's the funny part is it's like you start making enough money to pay your bills, then you start not qualifying for financial aid.
Yes. Well, it's probably good because you didn't have the debt.
No, in hindsight, it was great. In the moment, it sucked because I was, you know, basically working 2 full-time jobs trying to get by and then doing internships and trying to do all this other stuff, trying to keep afloat. But in hindsight, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it taught me how to work hard. And it taught me if I wanted something, no one was going to give it to me. I had to go get it myself. But I remember we're having this like meeting at the end of the year, like after the football season, and it's towards the end of the school year and everything. This is like, you know, going, you know, in that direction. Like I think it was April or May. And I remember like we're having this meeting and we're talking about like injuries and stuff and things that we can do better. And I remember at the time being like frustrated because they're like, oh, there's this amount of hamstring tears and this amount of this and this amount of this. I remember in my head though, I'm like, yeah, but like you won't let us do a reverse hyper, you know, like for whatever reason, they wouldn't let us train the lower backs of the athletes at all. So what happens is that their lower backs get weak and their hamstrings would like literally combust because they're like so strong, but they had no support. You know, there's no balance happening. So I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So I'm like, well, this is because of your stupid rules that you're implying. Let us do our fucking job and it won't be a problem.
So this was coming from the coaches?
It was coming from like the athletic director, you know? And I remember just being like, I remember afterwards walking out of the room. I remember the whole time the head strength coach was like hitting me like, shut the fuck up. You're going to get us fired. You know, you're going to get us in trouble. And I remember walking out of the room. And I said, is it like this everywhere? Like the politics and the bullshit and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah, like it's kind of part of the game. Like you're going to have to do that. You know, it's not everywhere. Some places are better, but it's part of the job. You're going to have to play that a little bit. And I said, I can't fucking do this. I just can't. I can't. I'm like, fuck it. So option B was opening a gym. So I then had a choice then too. It's like, do I want to sink another 20, 30 grand or more into finishing my last year of school? Or do I want to just gamble on myself and start a gym? And at that point, I'd already been lifting for like 9 years, doing powerlifting for 9 years. I played college sports. I did quite a bit of stuff. And I mean, shit, even when I was there, I mean, like people were asking me questions because I was pretty strong. You know, I was like, I wasn't a big guy at the time. I was like 220 pounds. I mean, for powerlifting, that's, you know, not a big guy. And I was deadlifting 600 and stuff. And so people were like, wow, that's pretty good, you know, whatever. So I was like, hey, I feel confident that I can give this a shot, you know? And when I was doing personal training, I was good at it, you know? I was able to get clients, keep clients. I think that's another thing is like retention. You know, if you're not able to retain your clients, it doesn't matter how many you get through the door. If they're walking out after like one package, like then you're screwed.
And so is that what you were doing for work? Because you're doing the strength and conditioning and then you're taking classes, then you're personal training?
And I was bartending.
All right. So where was the personal training at?
I was training at this gym. It's not open anymore, called Urban Body. It was like a bodybuilding, powerlifting kind of gym that was in San Diego.
Personal training or gym?
Personal training.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody there was a trainer?
No, it was like a gym,
okay.
But I was a personal trainer.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I was one of those. And I worked there. And then anyways, I really enjoyed it. I liked coaching. And that was my big thing. I just wanted to coach. You know, I really just wanted to coach, but I didn't want to have that oversight. You know what I mean? And I think it'd be different if it was like a constructive oversight. You know what I mean? Where it made sense. But there were certain things that just didn't make sense to me where I was like, or I'd even ask questions, why can't we do this? Or why can't we do this? And if I had more straight answers, I think I could have ended up in the strength conditioning world. But because I wasn't getting those straight answers and maybe it was just the experience I had, I didn't really feel like I wanted to go into it.
Were you asking? Because if you put yourself in the position of you being a coach now, then an intern working with you, and then throwing questions at you such as, why can't we do this? That's not the best question. And were you framing questions of why are we doing
It was more that. I was like more asking like, hey, what are, because I just wanted to learn.
Yeah.
That was my big thing. I've always been like that too. I want to learn. Like anybody who I meet who I feel knows more than me, which is, I mean, I feel like anybody who's like in this game, almost all of us have imposter syndrome. So like,
the more you learn, the more you know.
Exactly. And I felt that way even when I was young. I never had that like typical young guy mindset where it was like, oh, I'm a 22-year-old know-it-all. I didn't never felt that way. I've always felt like I know nothing. If I approach things like I know nothing, that's how I'm going to learn more. So I always was more like, hey, like, what's the value of doing this? Why are we using this? And, what about this? What about this? And there's all these like little things that I was asking questions about. And maybe it was just because I was an assistant and I'm just some, young kid, but I guess it's just my experience just wasn't very good. That's the best simple way to describe it. My experience wasn't very good. And maybe if I was at a different place, that's what I was kind of saying. Like, maybe I was at a different spot, I would have had a different experience. And maybe I would have ended up in that direction. But because I didn't have that, and I was really enjoying coaching out of a gym, I was like, you know what, maybe this is like the stars aligning, telling me to go in this direction.
There's two different demographics though.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah,
totally different.
One's kind of like majority gen pop type people, and the other one is going to be the athletes, which is interesting there too, because the athletes don't always want to do what you're having them do, but you like to work with them because they have this talent.
Well, that's what I started noticing. Like you said, like I remember one of the athletes, he just wanted to jump rope. He didn't want to.
Yeah.
He would just sit in the corner and just jump rope, and he just wouldn't do anything else. But he was like a star, and he was good, so they just sort of let him jump rope. But then my gen pop folks were willing to do anything. And then that's for me though, when I decided I wanted to like try to start my own facility. And I came back, I was in San Diego and I came back to San Jose. I got offered a job at like another gym. It's just like a personal training studio, but it was like a managerial position. And basically I managed that place. And while that was happening, I'd work there from 4 a.m. till, about noon or 1. And then I would start it out of my backyard, which is why my gym's called Backyard Barbell. I started in my backyard and it was just simple. Just like a bar, rack, boards, chains, just getting creative. Right. But a lot of it was just trying to show people that I knew what I was doing, and at the time, the only powerlifting gym was Wild Iron, which is a really good spot. But, and then there was Boss and Mountain View, and that was it. And they were in San Jose, Mountain View is about a 30-40 minute drive, depending on traffic.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it really?
Yeah, because traffic's brutal in the Bay Area.
Yeah, so it can be 2 hours.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. So that's why it's like, it's like here, it's like 8 miles down the road, it's nothing, right? It's like 2 minutes, who cares? So you don't even blink an eye about it. But there, 8 miles down the road, it's like, that's an hour. You just don't know, So there wasn't really anything in San Jose happening at the time. And outside of Wild Iron, and they were definitely more of like a coaching facility too. They had very limited hours, kind of had like that more, I know they ran like conjugate there, so it's kind of like they had like a morning time, and then I don't even know if they had a nighttime. I think they just had a morning time. So it's like if you didn't fit the time that they were open, that was it. So I was like, all right, well, I want to open like a real gym, and still offer coaching and do all that, So I started, like I said, like hardly any money to my name, and started my first gym. And it was small. It was like only like 1,300 square feet.
I've been training for over 4 decades now, and keeping track of all my training metrics has always been a big part of that. It wasn't until later on that I realized that keeping track of your internal metrics are just as important, if not more important, the longer you're in this game. Most primary care physicians, if you go in for any type of issue, they'll look for what's off, but they're not necessarily looking for how to optimize where your labs are for where you want to go. That's where Merrick Health comes in. Merrick Health does advanced blood work with medical providers around the world and a health coach who helps build a plan around your goals. I worked with Merrick to build a custom lab panel for this show. They have guided optimizations that can help you set you up with a health coach to be able to work through what your goals are, from the prescriptions to supplements, just the whole deal. Don't have to do that. You can just do the lab panels. They have options. You can find this at merrickhealth.com/table talk for 10% off your first order. One of the best decisions that I ever made was to partner with Merrick. So I highly suggest you head over to merrickhealth.com/table talk and get started today. How long were you in your backyard before you had the gym?
I was in my backyard. How it started was I was in my backyard probably for about like 4 months. And while that was happening though, I was building my garage because the flooring was all fucked up. It was all, callywumpus and holes everywhere. And I wanted to get it level. So I like cemented it out, redid the concrete, leveled it out. Built some platforms, built a rack. And I remember I got one of y'all's glued ham raises. And then I had like dumbbells up to 100. I got a safety bar, just enough to like get me by. I got some sleds, I got farmer handles, like enough that you could do a good amount with. Now, was it perfect? By no means. I was definitely missing a lot of stuff, but it was enough to get started, and get the ball rolling and also show people that I knew what I was doing and could provide a valuable service,
So how are you getting members then?
A lot of it was just word of mouth because it's out of my house. So it's like, I marketed online a little bit I had like a website and did all that, and that helped get some people, but a lot of people when they would like roll by, because I was in San Jose in kind of a rough area. So people would show up, they're like, hell no, this place looks sketchy. I'm not.
Well, it's your house.
Exactly. It's my house too. And I would tell them too, like, hey, I'm just letting you know it's my house. Like if you're cool with that. Most people weren't cool with that though. But a lot of it's just word of mouth. And, I started with my cousin and I started with a couple friends and they would tell friends and that's, it kind of just rabbit holed and went from there. And then they would tell their friends. And I was only in there for maybe about 8-10 months.
So during this time, are you telling all of them that you're looking for a location? So as they're signing up to be able to train.
So at the time,
really? Because you could have leveraged that.
So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I was 22, 23-year-old kid. I didn't know better, and there's so many things I've like in hindsight look back on. I like cringe where I'm like, oh, I had no business, doing any of that shit. But I think a lot of it's just like tenacity. I just never gave up, and I kept just throwing darts at the wall, just trying to see what would hit and what would work.
So which ones were not hitting?
Well, ones that were not hitting, for example, was just leaning on just one-on-one. I think that was like something I picked up on right away because A, it's out of a lot of people's budget, but also B, people have more fun training in a group. So I started leaning into a lot of like small group stuff. So like 3 or 4 people at a time. And, luckily I had like, a competition rack in my gym. So like I was able to, work in multiple people at once and it became fun, and that's actually something weirdly enough I got from like even watching like old West Side tapes when I was young, it was like seeing everyone training in a group. And that's when I kind of like started that way. I was like, all right, let's like do groups and see how it goes. And those blew up fast because then people were like, hey, I go in here, I have fun, I'm getting pushed hard and I'm making progress. I think that there's a lot to be said about just getting results, and those sometimes speak enough for themselves when you're a coach.
Yeah, well, your revenue per hour goes up.
Yeah,
too,
dramatically.
There's 4 or 5 people.
Totally. So it was working really well.
Yeah.
So I remember though how it happened where I got kind of kicked out of my house essentially was because my neighbor was bitching about the noise. And then the city of San Jose came by and they're like, hey, you can't be doing this shit here. And I was like, I just pretended like, hey, it's a home gym. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, no, you can't do this. This is like too loud. Neighbors are complaining, blah, blah, blah. And then
you can't do what?
They told me I couldn't lift weights. They're like, no, you can't do this. And I was so surprised. I was like, what do you mean I can't lift weights in my own house?
Well, I could see them coming down on you for having a business where you don't have whatever zoning or license or whatever.
100%. Yeah.
Was that what it was? Or it was just the freaking noise?
It was more the noise than anything they're getting pissed off about. And then I should say,
and it's not the best neighborhood either. I just buy a couple of pit bulls and tell the neighbors to fuck off.
I know, but the neighbors, to give them credit, they just had a kid. So the mom was just like, hey, the noise is waking up my baby. And I even tell guys like, hey, try to set the deadlift lighter, like anything, whatever. And it just wasn't enough. They also just one of those type of people that's just like nothing ever satisfies them. You know what I mean? Like just people just want to bitch and complain about every little thing. And, so it started off as noise. That's what I should say. It started off as noise. And then they started like saying, the business side. And then that's when I was like getting nervous, where I'm like, all right, I'm going to start getting fined. I don't have the money to do that. So at that point, that's when I started kind of leveraging like, hey, I'm looking for a space. And then that's when actually I started gaining.
So when you start looking for this space, do you get hit with the sticker shock? Because this can't be cheap when you start looking for places. When you're
well, that's kind of how I ended up.
Just free.
Totally. Kinda. Yeah, kind of. But so back then the rent wasn't, I mean, there definitely was sticker shock because I wanted to be like, at first, of course, like I want to go somewhere decent size. Like, oh, let's go to a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot, facility. And then when I saw how much rents were, especially where I was like, oh, there's no way. Like, I can't afford that. There's no way. So that's how I ended up in only like a 1,300 square foot spot. Super small. But there was a big parking lot, in front of it, decent sized parking lot. So I was like, all right, I can do sled and.
Well, the 1,300 is going to be what, 4 times the size of what you had?
Oh, yeah. So to me, it was a jump. It felt great. Like I was like, oh, this is a big improvement. And to my people that I was training, it was a big improvement for them too. Now, the funny thing is when people would come in, I mean, it was kind of a old building and not super nice, So a lot of it, that's where like building like a reputation as like a good coach really helped. I think if I didn't have that in my pocket, I don't know if that business would have been as successful, like if I didn't have that reputation. I think it would have been a really hard road.
So when you had to make that jump, because it was kind of pushed upon you as well, how many clients do you think you had?
I had probably 14.
So enough to make the jump and still be poor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I was broke as shit. I mean,
well, you had enough, right? You were just starting to be able to make a little bit of income, and now that income's going to go away because it's going to go into the rent and utilities and all the other crap that you weren't thinking about.
100%. And I mean, I remember when I went in there, my first month, I still profited a little bit. I remember I made like, I think it was like $700. And I was so excited.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, it's not. But I was super happy. I was like, I made $700. Now, this is why I was still working the manager job in the morning though. I was still doing that. I had to, otherwise I wasn't going to be able to pay rent. I mean, living in the Bay Area is very expensive, So I worked both for a long time. I basically didn't sleep for like 5 years, and my progress was shit during that time because of that too, because I was sleeping 3.
That's interesting though, right? Because your prime time for the demographic you're working with, you're working for somebody else, right? So that's got to kind of play into your mentality a little bit too, is you're building your client base during not the best time.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't have mornings available. I only had nighttime. And that's also part of the reason why I made my gym 24 hours. So like right out the gate. And there was no real old school key clubs going on. And it's funny, the gym in California, it still ran this way because I just think it's a cool touch. Back then there wasn't like Gym Master and like all these like, 24-hour.
So you just have like a key.
Hardcore key, like old school key.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because if somebody leaves, you got to track them down.
Yeah. And that was also our like collateral. We wouldn't cancel somebody unless they turned in their key, Yeah. And then, I mean, luckily I have a guy there that he still trains there. He's like a locksmith. So like anytime someone doesn't, turn their key and I thought they were sketchy, I would have to change the lock. It super sucks. It super sucks.
Now you got to get new keys to everybody.
100%. It was a ton of work and it sucked. And, but anyways, luckily that only happened maybe once or twice, it didn't happen very often.
So how are you doing the billing? Is the billing at least automated?
That's automated. That was through PayPal.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I had that, but like I said, this is where it's like, I was just young and dumb and didn't know much. I was just kind of figuring it out as I went. But I think the thing I had going for me was that I started powerlifting really young. I started doing it really young. So even though I was say 23, 24, 25 years old, I still actually had like 12 years under my belt of being around it and learning from people and the experience.
Yeah, but those aren't your clients, though.
No, not without a doubt. But I think more than anything though, I think is that, that experience, what I'm saying though, is that it's like, like when someone starts personal training or starts coaching and they start doing it when they're 27, but that's all the like experience they have talking to people and learn. So it's like, yeah, they only really have like 1 or 2 years under their belt when you think about it. But I got my personal training cert when I was still in high school, you know, because you can get it when you're 18. I turned 18 in October of my senior year.
Yeah.
So I got it right away, and I worked at 24-hour fitness. I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So the training side's not something you have to double down on to be able to learn, because you know that. You know enough to train anybody because you've been doing it forever at that point.
Exactly. So that's why, even though I was young, I had a lot of experience under my belt, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that just combined with like willing to work crazy hours and willing to put in the time, and also just being willing, because what we were talking about earlier, just willing to throw shit out the window and flip the script if I needed to keep the lights on and keep things moving forward, you know. And
now with the California location, is it still in that location now, or
no, we moved it to literally down the street. So we're originally on 1630 Bermuda Lane. We moved it to 1604, and it's a little bit bigger. That is more of a coaching facility, that gym in general, and that's all self-running now. I have an amazing manager that runs it now. His name's Diego. Just one of the hardest working, smartest, nicest people I've ever met. I'm very, very thankful for him. But he basically manages that gym now, and it's pretty much just self-running at this point. You know, I still write programming for people out of there, but a lot of people I write programming for, they're like the types where it's like their technique is pretty good, where it's like I can look at some videos here and there, but generally speaking, that's not going to be the issue. I mean, I can go on a whole rant about that with like online coaching, how it's like you should only be really working with like advanced people who really know what they're doing if you're going to do online coaching, because if you have technique problems, it's near impossible to fix.
Yeah. Well, that plus, I mean, a lot of the times they're only looking at the main lifts, where you might have 6 or 7 lifts programmed for them during that day. Granted, a push down's not that big of a deal, but people can fuck up push downs.
Fuck yeah. 100%.
Tremendously.
Yes.
And it's interesting because you worked with a Gen Pop.
So
you can see what, and I don't want to say this is a bad thing because they're just ignorant. They don't know. And they shouldn't be expected to know. If we went to go play tennis or some shit, we don't know what the fuck.
No, we look like idiots too.
So they don't know what they're doing. Right. And to assume that people just know what they're doing on all these things is a big reach.
100%.
It's a huge reach.
Exactly.
Even with people that you think know what they're doing.
100%. And that's why even with the people I do work with, usually their first week, I'd be like, hey, like, send me some videos of your accessory work if you haven't done it before. And I know that you know how to do it, you know, because like you said, it can be as simple as a tricep push down, but then they're swinging their arms all over the place and using everything but their triceps, right?
Yes.
So that's why for me, like, you know, the only people I coach there now online are like people who I know, where it's like, all right, your stuff's pretty dialed. I've worked with you before. I feel comfortable doing it, you know? So that's the only people I work with there really now, but everything else is pretty self-running there now. And, you know, but that gym is different than my gym I just opened, you know, very different market too, you know, cause I just opened my gym in Austin. That one is not going to be a coaching focused facility.
So when you were looking to open that location, you can open it anywhere.
Yeah, of course.
So what markets were you looking into to open?
Well, so part of it is I wanted to go to Texas because especially just like the triangle of like Texas, because it's like arguably the strength capital of the world right now.
I know, but there's Austin, there's Houston, there's
a
lot of places. There's metro areas of all these places too.
Totally. So part of it was honestly A, competition, and then B, just like market availability and what I was kind of noticing. So for example, Houston has a lot of amazing strength gyms. So does Dallas Fort Worth, and so does San Antonio with like heavy metal and things like that. Austin, when I was checking it out, had literally nothing. Like there's nothing there, which surprised the shit out of me. Part of it is just because some of the gyms, you know, they just went out of business. They shifted careers, like just random stuff. It wasn't solely just because the gyms were not successful. It was just things didn't work out or shit blew up with the owners, like whatever, just stuff happened. A lot of it was just like that, like happenstance kind of thing, you know? So I remember when my wife and I were checking out all the cities in Texas, kind of seeing the markets, also doing market metrics, kind of seeing, okay, what's the average income, you know, what's home ownership rates like, you know, things like that matter a lot.
So when you're looking at that, because this is to help other people that are doing the same thing.
Of course.
How big of a demographic area are you looking at? So it's like, here's the location. How many miles around the location?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So I think it depends a lot on the culture of the city. So like, for example, in the Bay Area, I'm probably only going to look like maybe 5 to 8 miles tops, tops from the location I'm at, because people don't really like driving there because of the traffic. You know, traffic is brutal. Now in Austin, yes, 35 can have some bad traffic as well, but generally speaking, traffic's not nearly half as an issue. And then just from a cultural standpoint in Texas, driving is a thing you do there. I mean, like, people talk about driving 3 hours to Houston like it's going down the road, you know, it's just like part of the culture. So I expand my radius quite a bit because I have people that are willing to drive already like 30, 40 minutes to their gym and they don't even blink an eye about it. They're totally fine with that. That would never happen in the Bay Area. It just wouldn't, you know, like people coming from, because I'm in like East Austin, and some people are coming from like Leander, Cedar Park, which is northwest of Austin. It's about a 45-minute drive.
It's a different drive though, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
sitting in traffic.
Stop the whole time. That sucks for an hour. Where if you're driving for an hour, but you're actually moving, you know, that's tolerable.
Totally. And that's why there I can expand my radius, right? It's not like in the Bay Area, like you said, because it's start and stop traffic. People aren't willing to go very far. So there I'm looking more 5 to 8 miles versus in Austin, I'm looking more like 20 miles, 25 miles.
So for the demographics, are you using the census data?
So I had a broker that was able to help me with all that. And he was able to get detailed breakdown sheets and even compare it against San Jose too, which was cool to see. Just so he can see, so he can show me like, look, this is the income differences. This is what you're looking like. And my main demographic I look for is usually between 25 and 44. That's like your average solid demographic is between that age group.
Are you leaning more male or female or both?
Well, now you can actually kind of lean, you can kind of go, I don't even try to lean one way or the other. I try to kind of ride the middle if I can, make it approachable for both.
Well, you want it approachable for both, but when you're doing this research,
I definitely lean a little bit more male for sure. But with that said, though, it's different world. Like, I think like when I started going to a powerlifting gym the first time in 2004, you'd be lucky to see a girl or two. Now, like some of the gyms are like half and half.
Yeah.
You know,
or more,
you know? So, I definitely lean a little bit more male. But with that said, I still look at kind of everybody, you know, but when I looked at Austin and San Jose comparing the market, I remember when I looked at Austin, the thing that surprised me was the salary differences weren't that off, you know, like San Jose, I think the average for 25-44 was like 110, 112. And in Austin, it was like 99, which comparing the cost of living difference is pretty damn good. You know, the thing that shocked me the most was the homeownership rate. So homeownership percentage for 25 to 44 in San Jose was only 7%. That's it, which is insanely low. Versus in Austin, it was like 74. So that tells me though that the average person there is not as stressed out about their living situation. It means they're going to be more likely to spend money on stuff like going to a private gym, for example, right? Versus just settling for the cheap commercial gym. You know, that definitely was something that influenced me to look at Austin seriously.
Well, it would also tell you that their location's a little bit more permanent than a renter that could be there for work. And then, especially in San Jose, they're going to be there for work, but they're also going to be looking for the better job, you know, the upward mobility for work more frequently. So they may not be in that same location.
Yeah, you get more tourists.
Yes.
It's much more transient.
Yes, that's where I was going.
Yeah, much more transient. And there, it's not as transient. So that means, for example, with my gym in Austin, I'm definitely leaning into, you know, like setting up the gym where it's like, it's funny, like I would describe my gym as, I had a guy at my gym describe it as like retro done right. Because he said it's like, hey, it's like a old school hardcore facility if you know. So like you go in there, you see a monolift, you see, I have like the custom deadlift platform for me all, and then I have like a full set of Elite FTS machines, and I have all this amazing equipment. I have every specialty bar, I got turf, all that stuff. If you know powerlifting strongman, you're like, this is like the most hardcore gym in Austin. It's not even close. This place is insane. But it's pretty enough to gen pop because I have all these nice machines. I got cardio equipment still, all that stuff. So they don't realize it. They just see, hey, they get nice machines and cardio equipment and everything's all nice and shiny.
Yeah.
So they're willing to join.
Well, they can see that it's because the strength training trend, and it's interesting because it's the first time it's been leading in that fitness area more than aesthetics. And if they walk into a gym and it looks like strength training.
Yeah.
So like a small university or whatever it's going to be. There's racks and there's things that people walk in and they can see. This is not like all bodybuilding type machines.
Yeah.
Right. It's strength.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for. Strength and performance. Yes.
Yeah. And that is also like in Austin. I mean, Austin is one of like the fittest cities in the United States. I remember when my wife and I first visited there, we're walking on it's Lady Bird Lake, but everyone calls it Town Lake. We're walking on Town Lake. I remember walking down it. And I was like, I've seen more fit, jacked dudes and chicks in 20 minutes walking on this trail than I've seen in any city I've ever really been to.
Now, were you visiting to look for a gym location, or is it a place that you just like to go to?
We live in some crazy times right now where there's not a day that I don't go on the internet and I see some BS crap about this research study or this research study. This isn't new. I've been in this industry for 4 decades. One thing that's helped me is 8 years ago, the Mass Research Review started and became a godsend. The Mass Research team are professional researchers that are also meatheads. So they've done this great job of being able to take all these topics and put them into this research review that I get every month. I'm excited to partner with them. I spoke with Eric Helms about this on the podcast. It's simple, it's easy. They're offering a 20% discount to all podcast listeners. The code is elitefts20. When you join, you get the research review, which is going to be sent to you every single month. That has 7 to 9 articles in there. The archive, which is 1,500 articles, thousands of videos. Just head over to massresearchreview.com and use the code elitefts20. The link will be in the description.
I was visiting with the intent of thinking this might be a place I want to open a gym. Because that's kind of what my wife and I were doing. It was like, hey, let's check out Houston. Let's check out Dallas-Fort Worth. Let's check out Austin, San Antonio. We're kind of checking out all the cities and seeing which one kind of fit what we wanted to do. And the Austin market just made the most sense. There wasn't anything there, but there's a lot of strong people there. I mean, like I said, I got 4 people that total over 2,000 raw at my gym already. We've been open 3 weeks, which is insane. I got a couple pro strongmen there already. And actually, I'm not sure if he's a pro, but he's super high level. It's like Kyle Banta. He can strict press 400 pounds on a log. It's unbelievable. But, I have some really strong freaks there. So, and a lot of them were traveling to heavy metal on the weekend because for the strongmen, traveling to heavy metal on the weekends, they didn't have anywhere to go.
So when did you move then? Because you got to set the gym up. Yeah. You got to have the gym open or set up before people. Actually, you're going to have pre-sales, but let's just set the pre-sales aside for a second.
For sure.
You still got to have the location set up for people to be able to see.
Yeah.
And so how many months were you giving yourself to be able to have everything there? And because there's shit with locations too. I mean, you got to get into the location. You need to make sure everything works.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, that doesn't work. So how long was it? 6 months, 3 months? How long were you?
It's a great question. Yeah. So I moved there in March with the intent of opening my gym in June.
Okay.
Now, with that said, I'm a little more psychotic, I think, than...
That's psychotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but it's also financially kind of responsible too.
Yeah, because you're not paying rent endlessly, without bringing any heads through the door.
Yes.
So, it's definitely psychotic for sure. With that said, though, because it wasn't my first rodeo with opening a gym, I knew how to streamline a lot of stuff. I knew, okay, I'm going to set up Gym Master this time. I know how to market the pre-sales. I know how to get my social media up and running and get some traction going on with that so I can get heads through the door on day one. I also knew who I wanted to buy equipment from right away. I knew what pieces I wanted. I also too I started looking for the location, I should say, in November. I signed my lease in January, but I had to do some improvements to the space because I had to add HVAC. So I had to get permits and build out and all that
Did
stuff.
you have how much build out did you have to do?
I just had to add HVAC.
That's it. So like walls and shit like that. It's just painting is all you had to do.
I had to paint and I had to add HVAC
and flooring.
Yeah,
like this expected.
Yeah, I mean the flooring something. Unfortunately, with the flooring, I couldn't do it until I had my CO because I had to open. So my gym in Austin is 2 stories, so I could do my downstairs flooring. But the problem is I was going to put turf there, and I had to forklifted all the machines I bought from you were forklifted upstairs. So I basically could not do the flooring because the turf had to be the last thing to get installed. Otherwise, the forklift was going to destroy the turf. I mean, I could cover it with rubber mats, but then it's going to destroy the mats. So it's like I basically had to do everything kind of last minute. But I think this is where like experience really played on my side because I have done it before, I could streamline everything. I could think of every little detail, all those little things that I think first-time gym owners are not going to think about because they haven't had the experience. Yeah. They're not going to think about that stuff. Versus me, I'm like, oh, okay, I know this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. We have to do it in this way, this way, this way.
So you only had to move the equipment at most twice, maybe 3 times, but 3 times would just be a piece here and there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I had it stored. So we had a building. There's a building across that was just empty. And that's where I purchased all the equipment ahead of time. I had it stored in there.
Oh, that still sucks.
It still super sucks. So, but I had to move everything in to the space once I got my certificate of occupancy. Because I'm not sure how it is in Ohio, but in Austin, you can't move shit in there until you have that. It has to be empty.
So what was the storage? Was it just containers or was it a building?
It was a building. Yeah, so it had like a roll-up door and everything, and it was literally like few parking spaces across. It wasn't it wasn't too bad.
That's actually nice.
It was super nice. Yeah. It wasn't bad at all. So that's why I didn't mind. I was able to work out a deal with the landlord because it wasn't being rented. It was just sitting there empty. So I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I order my stuff now so I can store it in there? That way, once I get my certificate of occupancy, I can hit the ground running and get that shit over there and get it up and running.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just had to add HVAC. Took about 3 months with like permits and the MEP drawings and things.
Well, you're coming from California, so 3 months for the permits is probably a good thing.
Oh, I mean, I remember I had to get my building didn't have a clean out, and I didn't find out until I was open for 6 months. It didn't have a clean out. I had to get it snaked, because some big fucker blew up the toilet, and the plumber came by and he was like, hey, there's no clean out here. And I said, what the fuck do you mean there's no clean out? And he's like, I can't snake it. I'm going to break my snake. There's nowhere for this shit to go. And I was like, well, fuck. So then I contacted my landlord and he's like, oh, that might be like major plumbing construction. You might need to get a permit for that. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So then I did all this research. Turned out it was going to be like a year. And I was like, I can't not have a shitter for a year at a powerlifting gym. So I remember I went up to the plumber and I called my landlord. I said, hey, I'm going to offer this plumber cash and we're just going to like stay hush hush about this and we're just going to do it. And she was like, yeah, that's fine with me. Like, whatever. Like, we'll deal with it if something ever happens. So I just gave the plumber a couple extra grand. I said, hey, we're just going to do this and we're not going to talk about it. Sounds good? He's like, all right, sounds good to me. And he did it and that was it. But yeah, the permits there are a nightmare. I think now too, they're like seasonal. Like there's only certain things you can do in the summer, certain things you can do in the winter. It's a shit show. And then they require all these certain materials because of environmental laws. So it's a huge pain in the ass. Austin, weirdly enough, isn't much better, but it's much more streamlined. It's faster. You can get an expediter to help you get your permits through faster. Like we got approved for the HVAC in like a month, super fast. And getting the drawings done for the HVAC only took like 2-3 weeks, it was pretty fast. And then the HVAC construction itself was quick. And then getting your certificate of occupancy wasn't that bad either. So, but that's something I would definitely say for like gym owners in general.
That's a big one. It's a big one. Cause I've seen a lot get bid on that. Cause they don't know.
No.
Right. And then once they get in, they're like, shit. And sometimes it can take, there can be some shit. So I've seen sometimes it takes 6 months.
Yeah. Just get approved.
Yes.
And you haven't even started construction yet.
Yes.
And then you have to get it post construction approvals as well.
Mm-hmm.
So next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, this has been 8 months. But I think part of it is too, if I'm being honest, part of it is too, I mean, it depends, of course, where you are, right? If you're in California, it's going to take forever.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, luckily, they're pretty streamlined and they're pretty fast. At least in Austin, they're pretty fast. I think if you stay on top of everybody too, it helps a lot too. So I think some gym owners, they're almost doing too much,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's actually something I was going to touch on with my gym in California. That's part of the reason why I have someone running it now. Is around 25, 26, my gym just wasn't progressing very well. And part of the reason why is because I was wearing every hat. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to like start passing off some work to other employees. I can't do it all. And I've really learned too that like the most successful gyms I've seen, you really can like pick 2 of 3. You have gym owner, coach, athlete. Pick 2. Trying to do all 3 is really tough. You usually burn yourself out.
Well, the athlete's the diciest of the 3.
It's the diciest of the 3.
You don't make shit to do that.
No, but with that said, though, most gym owners want, you don't want to be a bag of milk owning a gym. It's part of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of the reason why a lot of us want to open a gym. We want to open a gym so we can have our shit set up the way we want it set up because we can't find a gym to do it the way we want to do it, you know? So I tell a lot of gym owners that when they're like, hey, like I want to start a gym, it's going to be a coaching facility, blah, blah, blah. I said, you're better off trying to find a gym that has what you want and will support you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually easier said than done for sure. You know, like finding a gym that'll actually support you and it's not going to be like, you know, taking you to the fucking cleaners every month, you know, making you pay insane commissions and shit like that. If you can find a great facility that maybe you pay a rent that's reasonable and you can build out your coaching business there, that's the best situation. If
it kind of depends upon how high the priority or how high the number one priority of being the athlete actually is.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's different levels to that. Because there's some that just want to be the greatest athlete, strength athlete they can. And with those, I would say, you know, don't build a coaching business at all if you don't have to. Just be the fucking athlete and find a way to pay your bills and just do that.
And you can do that now too.
Yes, because if you can do that, then you're going to be far more ahead of the person that's trying to build and scale this coaching business to be able to, because all they're doing that for is to be able to pay for their own training.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. That's how online training started in the first place.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just for some, and they're actually shitty coaches because of that too.
Yeah,
right? Because all they're looking for is to pay for their training.
100%.
You know, all the things associated with that. But those are the people that are always going to beat the ones that are trying to prioritize being a coach, where that's kind of like working on the backup plan, which is a good idea. Yeah, I think you should always have a backup plan. But the backup plan, people are always going to get fucking beat by the ones that don't have that backup plan.
Yep.
And as long as they know that, right, and they can kind of balance that, because on the flip side of that is when it is all over and they realize it's all over, they got nothing, right? But they may not even want to be in the field when it is all over. This is the other thing.
They shift around.
We'll get to this, but you're kind of in that weird space now,
yeah,
where you're going to hit this place where you go through the stages of death, right? And you're going to get to that anger phase. And like, I don't even like these fuckers anymore, right?
Totally.
Like now it's your job, you know. So
it's like my livelihood.
You're kind of stuck,
right?
Yeah. So it's weird, where so you have the business of the entrepreneur or the entrepreneur, then the coach, and then the athlete, right? And so the athlete thing, we kind of talked about that, but there's still the coach and then the entrepreneur. And that's another factor too, because you can't just only have your clients, because then if you want to go on vacation or anything like that, you have no revenue.
You're screwed.
Yes.
You're screwed. You're only getting paid if you're working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another reason why like online coaching's become a little more popular too, because you have a little bit more freedom. Yes. You know, you can be in Hawaii working on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're still working, but at least you're in Hawaii, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or you're not tied down to a schedule.
Yeah, you're not tied down to a schedule and a place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's a big one too. I have to be here, right? But I think what I've noticed too is like a lot of people say they own the gym and they're the coach.
Yes.
They have a hard time because the amount of time to be the entrepreneur, if you want to really do it right, you're not going to have enough time to be a coach too.
Yes.
There's no fucking way. There's just not enough hours in the day,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's why, like, generally speaking, I should say athlete too, not necessarily in the sense of competing, but even just having time to train,
Yes.
you know? And I guess that's kind of what I mean by that. And it's because, like, if you are in the fitness world, right, it's like very few people are going to be like, hey, I want to be a coach and own my own gym and I want to look like a bag of milk. Like, very few people are doing that.
No, but if you own a gym for 10 years,
you probably will.
You know why those people
totally. You know why it happens.
There's no question as to why that happens.
You totally understand why.
Yeah.
But with that said, it doesn't happen very often, right?
Mm-hmm.
But usually what happens instead, though, is something suffers, right? Either the coaching is shit and then the gym's doing real well, or the coaching's really good, but the gym's not doing as good as it should be because you're not putting in the hours in on the other side of things. And also, it's kind of like being in battle if you're like a general, right? It's like you do better from overseeing, not being in the shit, right? I always like think of it like that. It's like if I'm coaching, I'm in the shit. And I'm not able to think about the business side as much because I'm so preoccupied with the coaching side.
And you should be.
And you should be. You should be. That's the thing. You should be. If you are coaching and you're not putting your heart and soul into your athletes and really caring about their progress and even noticing little shit where it's like, hey, I'm noticing, your knees cave in all of a sudden. It's like, okay, we need to fix that before it becomes a problem. Right? Shoulder issues start popping up, whatever, hey, maybe we need to make an adjustment on this technique. We need to do this. We need to do this, whatever. You need to be able to put the time and effort to it that your client also deserves. They're paying you for that. You shouldn't half-ass it. But then usually what happens in exchange is then your business isn't going to do as well because you're not putting the time into it where you're not noticing the trends changing. You're not noticing, hey, this isn't working anymore. I need to try something new, So that's why for me, it's like, hey, you got to pick the working out and staying in shape part is probably going to be the one that you care about.
The reality of the dichotomy that you're speaking about here is it's easier for you to hire somebody to do what you like to do the most, which is the coaching.
Yeah.
Right. It's easier to hire somebody to put them in that role to be able to do that than it is to hire somebody to run the business.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Right. Because to hire somebody to run the business is it's going to cost you more.
Yep.
It's probably going to be a full-time employee where this can be, a contractor coming in to do the coaching,
100%.
or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
But they won't do it because they like the coaching way better for obvious reasons because the other part sucks.
It's fucking hard.
And the other part, to hire somebody to do that, it's going to cost you more.
Way more.
Right? Because that's a full-time position. It's not the contractor.
Yep.
But it's also a position that you're going to be very ignorant in.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I think, like, for example, business owner, I think, like, for example, like for me, it was really eye-opening when I started focusing on the business owner part and started taking some steps back from the coaching and really, like I said, only putting energy into people where it's like, okay, I have maybe like 15 people I'm really putting my energy into, you know what I mean? And I'm not coaching them in person. It's more like, looking at videos and whatever. That's manageable. I can handle that. Even still, I can still handle that, They're also more self-sufficient, because their technique's pretty good. They know what they're doing. So it's like, it's not like I'm dealing with beginners here. So it's like, time-wise, it's manageable. If I had to, like, say, coach beginners and run a gym, and there's not enough hours in the day. And I did that for years trying to make it happen. And my business never progressed as well as I think it could have. When I took a step back and I started having coaches where I started even training coaches, like, hey, let me teach you the ways, essentially, And I mean, it's kind of like that live, learn, pass on thing that we always talk about. It's like, all right, I need to pass this on to the next generation. How do I teach these guys how to be good coaches and tell them what to look for, tell them what to make adjustments for, how to solve certain problems? That was easier to do, for me, like teaching them that. And then I can step back and start problem solving for the business better.
Well, you know what? You just brought up something that you made me think of this. I never thought of this in this context before. It's easier for you to coach that because you know it so well. It wouldn't be easy for you to coach that business side because you don't know it yet.
I think the business side too is honestly hard to coach and hard to teach because every business is so individualistic. The other thing too with the business side of things too, I think that a lot of it is like a personality thing too. Like I think like some folks that like, especially if you're really flighty and flaky and you're just like not on the ball with certain things. I think also networking, being personable is a huge part of business success. If you don't have that, you can't teach that shit. You just can't. That's kind of like something you either have or you don't.
Yeah.
That's why like sometimes I'll meet someone and they're like super awkward and weird and they're like, I want to open a gym. I'm like, really? Like, no offense, dude. You got like the personality of a, piece of wood. Like, I don't really know
Yeah.
how well that's
Yeah.
going to go
Yeah.
for you, So there's that too. The business side, I think, is way harder to teach. And that's why for me, though, I realized I had a knack for it. I stepped back. My business in California blew up way faster with me not being fully involved.
So when you did that, what were the things that you then focused on to be able to make that happen?
Well, a lot of it was, leaning into what was working. Right. So a lot of what was working was essentially like the group training stuff was working really well. But because it was mainly me, I was having a hard time scaling it. So then I hired more coaches so I can scale it. Then it was also too, like, you have to look at, okay, what's the best business model to make this work that also works well for everyone? Because I think another thing that gyms struggle with is also ensuring that their employees are doing okay too. That's why in a lot of gyms, you see a revolving door of coaches because they don't feel like they're being valued. So at my gym in California, I do it real simple. I only charge them a super small, basically a not very much rent. And then what I require though is that all of their clients have to have a membership or they have to pay a drop in when they come by. Now that's in a weird way, kind of like me getting commission without charging the coach. Now, if you're scaling this across, say, 3 or 4 coaches, and each coach has, say, 30 plus clients, it racks up really fast. And if you're in a coaching facility that's smaller, where it's not like like a big giant open gym, like a commercial facility where you need thousands of members. It's tighter knit. So, and the average member then is paying more per month than say if you're in a 24-hour fitness, right?
Yeah.
24-hour fitness, the average member is maybe paying like what, $50 a month. And that's including if they're buying supplements, they're buying, drinks or whatever there, because the membership's like $30 a month.
Yes.
But versus like, this is another thing to look into well, it's like, how much are you getting out of every member? It's like, say the membership's 80, that's usually not all of it. If you add merch, drinks, drink sales is like a weirdly great way to like snag an extra $20-$30 per member. Supplements, whatever, all these little things, you start finding all these little ways to like get more per member, and that helps you pay the bills. But I set it up in a way where it's like, okay, cool. Like I can have each of these coaches paying, having their clients pay a membership. Then I'm essentially getting a commission without charging the coach. Now the coach is making more money. So like, for example, 2 of my coaches in California, one of them's been working with me for 10 years. The other one's been working with me for 8. I don't see that in a lot of gyms because my guys actually make money. They're actually doing well. And I'm funneling clients to them. See, that's the other thing. I put more time and energy into the marketing, listening to their feedback. Hey, I think this would be helpful. I think we should offer this. You got to look at it more of as a team. Rather, I always joke, it's like when you hear like business say, oh, like we're a family. It's like, yeah, but that means they're mom and dad and you're the kid.
The other day I went to McDonald's, and after I paid, I had sticker shock. And then I kind of realized that meal prep services are actually more affordable than getting fast food, and it's way better for you. Today, I'd like to speak to you about Visionary Meals. Visionary Meals is a Central Ohio meal prep company that sources their ingredients through local farmers. 90% of the ingredients are all locally sourced, 100% gluten-free, with a customized meal selection that is beyond anything I've ever seen before. And I've used a lot of meal prep companies in the past. I'm sure you have as well. They have a completely customized section where you can build your own meals. You can scale up the protein with each meals. They rotate the meals every single week. And they have an RD on staff that helps with the receipts and does one-to-one nutritional counseling. One of my favorites through them is the barbecue beef bowl, which is just amazing. They have tons of locations throughout the region, or they'll bring the food to you. Go to visionarymeals.com and check out the variety of the food they have there. Hopefully before the end of the year, they're going to be able to ship nationwide. Use the code TABLETALK10 for 10% off your first order. Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You want to look at it more like a team. Like we all have a valuable thing we're bringing to the table. but we need to do our job, whatever that job is. So it's like, if you're the coach, you need to give me feedback on what's working, what's not working. Hey, I'm noticing people are asking for this. People are asking for this, whatever it is, and then it's your job as gym owner, the business owner side, to make it happen, to keep heads coming through the door, and also people spending money and being loyal to your business too. I think when you set it up in a way where, like, say someone's being overvalued more than another person, that gets dicey too. I think some gyms lean into the influencer thing a little too hard, and that kind of bites them in the ass, because then everyone feels like the influencer is like, king shit and being cared about a ton. And then the rest of the members are, diddly squat to them. That bites you in the ass too, But I think creating more community, creating that value around not just employees, but even members, where everyone's being valued and treated like respectfully.
So
that goes a long way.
Because you have the opportunity to do something different with this gym. So have you looked at the other scenario to where those coaches would be actual employees instead of contractors, but then it's going to cost you more, right, to be able to pay them. But once you then are able to take all the revenue from the training that they're actually charging, which you don't get now, you just get this small commission, which might be 10% or whatever they're getting it. But now if you could get 60%, and you're paying them the 40, there's pros and cons, right? Because they can leave, go someplace else and just pay the rent. So have you compared those two models to see?
I have compared, and I think in the long run, you make more money and you're more stable as well by leaning towards making sure the coach is taken care of. When you have a revolving door, of coaches, that's more time you have to put into training somebody.
Oh, big time.
And getting someone ready to go. You also have a higher risk of like dipshits, and like just people who like have bad personalities or flaky or,
well, it's way more management too, because you got to hire, you got to.
There's way more work to do. The other thing too is that I think it's short-sighted. I think it's like tripping over a dollar to pick up a dime. You know what I mean? It's like, it looks good in the short term, but I think in the long term, you create a lot more stability by leaning towards making sure your coaches are taken care of and that they will stick around. You might make less money, but I do think though, that's what makes my gym in California so stable, is because my coaches are taken care. I don't have to worry about them running off and then having to find someone else and, I don't have to do that. Versus other gyms that do it the opposite way, like you're saying, where it's like, hey, maybe the trainer's keeping 60%, right? And the gym's keeping 40. Well, that starts racking up, and that's when you get a
See, I don't think that even works, right?
I don't think it works at all.
I don't think this works unless the gym gets 60%.
Yeah.
Because the turnover and the higher, you always have to have more trainers than are on the floor.
Yeah.
Because if this one's sick, who's going to train their clients, right? Now, if it's their own clients, then they have to deal with that shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's kind of like it's like the Oberus, right? It's like the snake eating its own tail.
Well, I think it's where a lot of these gyms screw up is they're paying the trainers too much commission.
Yeah.
If they go that route, they are just paying, or they're instead of the gym getting the 60%, then the trainer is, because it's a better deal for the trainer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But when you run that out over time, the gym's not making shit on the 40%.
No. And then the other thing too, is that the trainer too say if a trainer makes $10,000 in a month, which starts to happen, that starts to happen. And then he's paying $4,000 in commissions. He's like, well, fuck, I can go rent a place and go here and do this, and I can make more money. So then you end up with a revolving door problem. Versus, let's say, for example, like, one of my coaches at my gym actually has like 45 clients, and they're paying, all the members are, each client pays $110 a month for OBG membership. That's in California. That's pretty normal pricing. So you think about it, you rack it up, that's one coach, and I'm getting it, $5,400 a month just from that one coach. And then he's also paying his rent, which is $500 a month, not very much. But see, that keeps his overhead low, where he doesn't want to go anywhere. He's like, why would I go anywhere? I have such a good deal. And he's making money. And then his clients are paying him, for the coaching, all that stuff. So he's making money hand over fist. Now, I'm not making as much money, but I'm consistently getting $6,000 of revenue from one coach.
Mm-hmm.
That pays for itself in the long run.
Yeah. Because
And that's
lifetime value.
It's a lifetime value. And then I don't have to worry about him going anywhere, dipping out because he's like, hey, I can go find a better deal, renting my own spot or going to a different gym that I just pay rent to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a thing too. It's like, you got to invest in your coaches. And that's kind of what I tell coaches to do too. It's like, try to find a gym that you can just pay rent to that has everything that you want if you can find it. You know, that's easier said than done, don't be wrong, but that's the best situation.
Yeah, but with this Austin location, you just need the time for the trainers to know that that's what they can do, and then they bump out of where they're at now.
Well, my trainers in Austin are going to be independent contractors as well.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so it's once they know, they
Mhm.
can go there and pay 500 or 1,000 or whatever it's going to be for the rent, and they're already paying $4,000 someplace else because it's a commission deal.
Yeah.
You know, then that works for that.
Yeah. It also attracts a lot of the good coaches. Like I'm already having some of the top end coaches in Austin once they're getting a woof of like, hey, I can go over there and only pay $500 a month for rent. That's it. And my clients just have to pay a membership. And that doesn't cost them any money, you know?
Yeah.
So then I'm getting revenue from their clients it's basically getting a commission on my end. That doesn't cost the coach.
So one good coach can bring in 50 members.
Yeah. Easily.
So it's easier to sell that one coach than to go try to find 50 new members.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. That's way easier to do. And if you are investing in the coach too, where say the coach is like, hey, I would love to get this piece of equipment, or it would be really cool. My clients like this supplement or they like this offering, whatever. See, then you invest in that. Then they're bringing in more people. Then those people are spending more money at your place and whatever. It's like you invest in the coaches and they invest back into you, you know, and it becomes this really good relationship. And I think the only reason why gyms don't do this more often, honestly, is because they see the dollar signs with commission. But you end up actually screwing yourself in the long run. See, now imagine if I have, say, 6 coaches over time. Now, don't get me wrong, it takes time to build it up.
Sure.
But say I have 6 coaches in Austin, and each one is bringing in, you know, even 30 people. That's like 200 members. That I don't have to lift a finger for to market and find and get them to join the gym. So that's already taken care of. I don't have to work hard for those. And I just have to find 5 or 6 coaches to do that for me versus trying to find 200 members.
Yes. So how are you going to prospect those?
Well, I mean, the nice part is Austin's a word of mouth town. So, you know, that's a lot of it. It's just, you know, people, the other coaches talking about, hey, they're offering this or offering this. Part of it is for me, it's just finding the coaches too. Like I don't care. I'll call them. I'll get their number or I'll like find out their social media. I'll hit them up and, hey, come by. Let's discuss. Let's talk, you know, and try to get them through the door. And, you know, and sometimes just reaching out can go a really long way, you know, and especially too, if you're saying, hey, like, I want to invest in you because I see your value. I see what you're bringing to the table. A lot of people aren't used to that anymore.
Well, it's you laughed when you said it because it's true. I mean, the reaching out is the whole game, right? But it's crazy because people have businesses and they won't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's called sales. I mean, but you kind of have, because they're not going to reach out to you.
No.
They might, but if they have 40 clients, they don't have the time.
No. And they're not thinking about it either.
No.
They're not looking for shit. Versus me, it's like, I'll go find the ones that are doing good. And I'll be like, hey, like, let's just have a discussion. I'm just throwing it out there, you know? And I think also too, some gym owners, they kind of get this like lack of humility where they're like unwilling to reach out because they want to feel like they're big shit, right? Because they're the gym owner.
Sure.
You know, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you get the personality.
Be the big shit and go home and be poor.
100%. I mean, it's stupid, but like I've seen it before where it's like they have these big egos and they think that they're Mr. Cool. But it's like, for me, I'm like, you own a gym, man. Like, I think it's cooler to make money, you know, and, you know, have a successful place than trying to act like you're better than everybody. You know?
I could see it if they're also the coach, but they want to be seen as the best coach there is.
Yeah.
Then you have somebody that just walks in the door to pay rent that has more clients than you do.
Yeah.
I mean, that will be the case because you don't have clients built up there.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of these people comes in, they have more than you do.
Yeah.
Right. So who cares?
Yeah. I could give a shit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're bringing 40 heads through the door. I don't care.
So did you do pre-sales?
I did some pre-sales. The hard part is we didn't have a lot of time from getting our certificate of occupancy and completing the build out to really market the actual facility itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I basically built my gym that I have in Austin. I built it in 2.5 weeks by myself, basically. I call it the gulag. Like I was in the gulag for like 2.5 weeks. I would wake up at 4 a.m., build the gym, build shit all day long. And then
so you had to put all this shit together too?
Oh yeah, I had to build all of it. So I would go have like Waffle House, or P. Terry's is like a 24-hour like burger spot in Austin. It's pretty good. I go to like Waffle House or P. Terry's at like 1 a.m. to midnight, and then I eat, pass out, wake up at 4 and do it again. I did that for 2.5 weeks. And luckily, like a lot of your stuff comes assembled.
Yeah.
There's some stuff you have to.
No, but that's a big thing, man, because I call it the partially assembled freight ship.
Yeah.
Because do you really want 5 hours to put something together that's the fucking belt squat or some shit like that that's in 1 million pieces?
Yeah. No, it's a nightmare. So, but I had to build racks.
Well, you had to move it.
I had to move it. The other thing too is like, even little shit, people don't think about this, unpacking plates.
Oh, that sucks.
Fuck. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And I think,
oh God, that sucks.
Yeah. So like, I remember one day I spent literally like, it was just the kilo plates we had. I think I spent 4 hours just unpacking kilo plates and putting them in their place.
I got the box, the strap around the box,
it was like
the plastic shit.
Yeah, cutting everything. It just takes forever. So, I had to unpack all the plates that took forever, built all the racks. I was, all the machines I got from you, like the partially assembled parts, I had like loading the plates in through the cable stuff, little shit like that, but that takes time and takes effort and, moving stuff in place, setting the turf in the place, building out random stuff. So it took me a solid like 2 weeks of 16, 18-hour days of just manual labor, pure manual labor. I remember I had like a blisters on my hands from just wrenching for so long. And then we had a few days where we can get like real shots at the gym. So the cool thing about it is like with pre-sales, basically anybody who saw our equipment list and saw some photos and footage of what we had, which is basically any of the hardcore folks, they knew what it was right out the gate. So we had a fair amount of pre-sales right out the gate. But the thing that's crazy, like I opened my gym, and it's like, like I said, I had like 4 people totaling 2,000 on day one. It's like I became the strongest gym and one of the strongest gyms probably in Texas, like that, which is amazing. It was super cool. But it didn't attract enough like Gen Pop, and which is who you need to pay the bills. But then it also, the thing that was cool about it though, is a lot of those people, they know a lot of other folks. So they right away, they're taking videos and showing it on Instagram, telling all their friends, this place is amazing, blah, blah, blah. So we've only been open for three weeks and we're already over 70 members.
Well, that's the thing.
And that's the thing that's cool, like,
that's the thing that a lot of gym owners don't consider with, the meathead powerlifters like you're talking about, because there's pros and cons, right? Because
of course,
a year from now, they're not going to want to pay and they're going to be a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
So there is that. But if they're as strong as what you say, they probably have been training for a decade.
Easily.
They've been to many gyms. They know every serious gym in the area.
Yeah.
So they can inform you and talk to you about whatever you want to know about
everything.
All those gyms, the owners and who they fucked and who they cheated on. And all, they know all of it.
They know all the details.
Right. And then they know all the people that train in those places. And so they're you have to work them to get the referrals. But their referral count and the information that they bring far outvalues.
Invaluable.
Any bullshit you're going to have to deal with later on.
100%.
Yeah, so a lot of the people that will bitch about that bullshit that they have typically are buying a gym that they already trained at for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't see the value because they were the value. They were that. They were in that group. Then they decided they want to run that group. Then that becomes the issue.
And that usually, doesn't work out very well at all.
No.
Versus when you started out like how I did right out the gate. And also too, the thing that I think other gym owners don't think about is those people build the culture as well in a good way. So for example, when you walk into my gym, it's always like high energy, and it's always like intense in a good way. Right. So even the Gen Pop folks, though, they walk in, they, see guys squatting 700 pounds. It's motivating. It's cool to see, and they see everyone cheering each other on and stuff like that, help each other out. That, though, is will set us apart, is going to be that community aspect. They crank up the tunes. They set the tone. And setting that tone, though, and that community aspect, because doing powerlifting by yourself is really hard, next to impossible.
Yeah,
it's best done in like a group and a crew. So a lot of people want to be part of something, though. They want to be part of a community. They want to be part of something. If you're walking in the gym, it already feels like there's a community built right out the gate. It's a lot more inviting than when you're walking into a gym and it feels like a library and it feels like everyone's to themselves. It doesn't feel like you can really be part of it. So we've had that a lot with like the Gen Pop folks as they walk in and they're like, oh, it's so cool to see like these, strong men and strong women and, other people like doing stuff here. It's very motivating. It's so cool to see. And I think that's kind of the cool part. It's attracting them because they're motivated by seeing it and they feel like they can be a part of it. Even if they're not really a part of it.
Do you think you're going to need paid ads to be able to drive leads?
I definitely do. I mean, I've been using Instagram paid ads for sure. We've been doing that quite a bit. I think that's another thing too, is that when it comes to ads, like paid ads, I think another aspect is like what type of ad is going to work well. So like, for example, in San Jose, people do not care about social media as much. So because of that, Instagram ads didn't do shit when I tried them. But Google ads did really well. People are more likely to search stuff there. So when I did Google ads, people would search personal training, group training, whatever. And then we'd pop up and we'd get tons of people. In Austin, it's funny. I tried it for like a month just to see. Didn't get fucking jack shit. It didn't do anything, Versus with Instagram, I did some paid ads through Instagram and people were like flying through the door, like way more than I was expecting. So I think it's a cultural thing. I think that's the thing. And that's the thing as a gym owner, I think you have to play with. Don't lean in on just one form of marketing. Find the one that works for you. So we found already that, okay, Instagram is valuable. People use Instagram here. It's definitely more social media driven. Let's leverage that and lean into it. So I've been putting more effort into that for my Austin gym than I did in my San Jose gym. My San Jose gym, I was getting no, payment back on that. Doing like more local events too seemed to work really well. I think that'll work well in Austin too. But offering like local events or like events at the gym, that was really helpful. My gym in San Jose too. People liked, like I said, that community aspect, that was really valuable. That drove people to the gym. But social media didn't do shit. It didn't help out at all. It was just really funny because usually that's what every gym owner leans into. But I found it was not the case in my gym in San Jose versus in Austin, opposite. Social media is definitely the thing that's going to help us get the word out. And a lot of our members too are doing it for us, which is really cool to see too, because they'll post and they'll tag the gym. And you don't think that goes, I think gym owners overlook that too. It's like, people like putting it out there for you. And then their buddy sees it, and then their buddy wants to come by, and then that buddy is posting it, and then so on and so forth. And there's a lot of leverage there, but only if your area is using it.
Yeah.
If your area's not using it, it ain't worth a shit.
So how many members do you need to be able to hit your break even?
So it's funny. So originally it was going to be about 200. But now I'm thinking it's actually probably lower. And the reason why is because, funnily enough, like supplement drink sales are like double in Austin than they were in San Jose too.
It's hotter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these elements, for example, fly off the shelf. And then everyone drinks like pre-workout and shit. And like, so I have like white monsters there, fly off the shelf. The girls seem to like the Lonnie's. And then I also have a cold brew coffee, like a nitro cold brew from a local vendor that's in Austin. those fly off the shelf too. I have a girl named Maria. She has a whole thing called Desert Delights, and we have a little deal we worked out together. But she's been selling like these Rice Krispies. Oh man, I mean, shit, sometimes like a pro strongman will eat 6 of those in one workout. And then he's doing that 4 times a week. I mean, now that member who's say paying, in Austin, I charge $80 a month for a membership. Now that one member is I'm actually really getting like 140, 150 from him, from drink and food sales and like supplement sales. So our average member, I thought I was going to lean more towards, because you get like people with discounts like cops and students and stuff. I thought it was going to be more around 78. And now, after just 3 weeks, our average is looking at like 104. So, which is great, because that means I don't need as much.
Yeah, so you'll be breaking even within a month, maybe 2.
I'll probably be profiting in a month.
Really?
Yeah. I think I'll at least be paying down debt. I'll be paying down debt in a month or 2, which is amazing. I couldn't be happier with that. I mean, most gyms, it's a year, before they even think about paying down anything, So I'm thinking in a month or 2 at the latest, I think we'll be in the position to start like getting ahead of everything, which is awesome. And then I'm working with, I have like a few guys that are independent contractors already that started with me. They're starting to with that said, they're not like people that have like 30, 40 clients, they're just people I believe in that, like one of them is Brandon Sullivan. He tolls like 2088 raw, super strong guy. He's been coaching for a while, but he did mainly like online stuff. So he's been wanting to do it in person for a while, and he's done some of that, but he hasn't really found a good place for it. So again, investing in him and, giving him a chance, so he can build up. And he's already, I mean, we've been open 3 weeks. He's already snagged like 3 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but like I said, word of mouth goes a long way. And if his clients are happy, and then they're happy, and then they, and then we're marketing for him, it racks up really fast. And I also too, I'm not charging right now. I'm giving them runway, so I'm not charging them the $500 a month rent right now, right out the gate. Kind of like a good service to them. Like, hey, I'm investing in you. I'm gonna give you like 3 months of runway to build up, and then we'll start charging the rent. That creates loyalty. That you know what I mean. That creates that, feeling like you're part of the team kind of thing. So then now he's going out of his way to market the gym. He's telling friends, he's doing this, you know what I mean? Even though he works there, but you know what I'm saying? It all works together when everyone's working together, So point is I think with the combination of the coaches that we have now, and I think with the way things are progressing, I think we'll definitely be profitable within a month or 2. We'll be paying down debt in a month or 2, which is like the best situation you can be in as a gym owner. And I think the other thing too is like another thing that is valuable, like you said, like the hardcore types. I think they've also changed. They're not like, I remember like when I first started lifting in like 2004, the average hardcore lifter was like a psychopath. I remember the one guy, his name was Aaron. He used to read Hustler magazines and smoke cigarettes in between sets because he said it raises testosterone.
You're being lied to about strength training. I know, because I've been watching this happen for over 40 years, and it's gotten worse, not better. When I got online in the late 90s, the people that were being sold this crap were the same people that I grew up and trained with. Serious lifters, coaches, and people who just wanted to get strong. So I started writing articles and answering questions. My wife, Tracy, set up the business, and we borrowed $1,000 to put up a website and go to work. That was 1998. Elite FTS was never about building a brand. It was about fixing a problem. The equipment, the articles, the coaching, all of it exists because the people who needed the real information deserve better than what they were getting, and they still do now. If you train, if you coach, if you've ever been handed something that didn't work by someone who didn't know what they were talking about, Elite FTS was built for you.
No, I can see that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see that shit nowadays. They're a little more cleaned up now, and they also generally too, like, people get their blood work down now. It's like, because I work with Merrick as well. And one of our guys, I think he's pretty high up in marketing, he works right underneath Smokey. His name's Ian. He's actually the one who helped kind of organize all this. He was gonna say he's great because I can help get the guys that are more hardcore to do blood work, and I can set up. I'm like a retailer for that, so I get that. So that's another little side thing as well. But the thing is that powerlifters now, I feel like they take care of themselves a little better now. So you're not getting as many of those guys like living in their car, you know what I mean, doing everything they can to like do powerlifting. They actually like have a job and they like make money so they can get blood work done. They can like do it right and take care of themselves. I feel like the energy's still there, but they're not as big of dirtbags as they used to be.
I'm sure they're still out there.
They're still out there for sure, but they're not as common.
No.
Yeah.
And it's because the ones that they would aspire to be like are doing all those things.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. So that would be one of the pros of the social media from all that.
Yeah. No, they're seeing that the top level guys are taking care of themselves, you know?
Yes. Or pretending to.
Trying to.
Yeah. Trying to. Yeah. Because there's, I know a lot that will say a lot that they don't actually do, just because of.
No, I know that too. Like
sponsorships or whatever is kind of playing into the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's the minority.
Yes.
Most are trying to cover all bases.
Yeah.
Which is because it's almost like I want to say it's like a lifestyle, but the lifestyle's changed.
100%.
What it was before. I guess now they can see, a lot of them see this as a potential career.
Yes.
Right. And I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of go back and forth day to day.
About it too.
And because it can be.
Yeah.
And for a lot it is. But because of that, we see, people that do one meet and become a coach.
Yep.
And
yeah.
Well, I still kind of even go back and forth on that, because if they do that and they just work with one or two people, they're getting experience as a coach, where you got to get experience somehow. If they wait until they're, breaking world records, then they're probably going to suck as a coach. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly.
it's a weird, how it is, but it's the way I see it is AI is going to wash all the shitty ones out anyhow.
I think so.
So it's
I think so too. I mean, if you can like replicate your program just going on ChatGPT, you're not going to last.
The AI can make a way better program than a lot of the people make now.
Yeah.
But to implement it's going to be where the skill is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like for example, in barbecue, right? Like I've gotten into Texas barbecue a little bit and like looking at the pitmasters will tell you everything. They'll tell you exactly what they do because they know applying it's the hard part. It's the same thing with great coaches. I mean, like Josh Bryant, for example, if you go to one of his seminars, he'll like answer the questions like you feel like an idiot afterwards almost, because it's so obvious the way he like will answer it so quickly. But it's really just because he has that experience and that knowledge that he knows that quick answer and he knows when to apply it and when to use it, right? That's the hard part with coaching. It's the application.
Yeah. You
can know all this shit, but if you don't know how to apply it, I mean, it's like I've talked to coaches where it's like I'm listening to them. They know they've read every book. They've done, they've gone to every seminar, they know all this. And then I'm like, oh, so I'm thinking they're going to be strong, like talking to them on the phone or something. Oh yeah, I benched 315. I'm like, what the fuck? Like you're 220, you bench 315, all this stuff. They just don't know how to apply. But that's the value of a good coach, which is where like, if you can get replaced by AI, it's because you don't know how to apply.
Exactly.
If you do know how to apply though, that's what's going to set you apart and also make your business successful probably forever, because you know how to apply it.
100%. And that's where the AI can help that person.
Yeah.
Because now that person has to spend less time doing all that stupid shit they used to do. Right. Where they can just build their AI models to be able to do that for them. That's done like that, which used to take hours.
Yeah.
And then they just can apply it better with more people.
Yes.
Right. So now they can make more money, have more clients, because they don't have to do all this admin shit.
Yeah.
The same thing with gym businesses and all the other stuff. It's if you had to go back and do all your accounting via, paper, and receipts and shit like that, it would take forever. Where you just punch the shit in the terminal.
Yeah.
And it's your reports are done.
Yeah. It takes like a second, and it's not that bad. And then you just funnel it all, hand it to your accountant at the end of the year, do your taxes, and
Yes.
It's not that bad.
No, and you have more time to be in front of the members and to actually do the things that run the business, because you're not making the spreadsheets and all the other metrics.
Yeah.
Freehand.
100%.
Nobody fucking does it so they don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
nobody does it anymore.
Yeah,
because it's all ingrained into that. That's how I kind of see the programming with AI and all that kind of stuff. Is it's just going to do all that so you can do the thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
that you're actually really good at.
Yeah,
and the people that aren't good at it are fucked.
Totally. Yeah, I think also too, in regards to all that as well. It's funny, like I feel like now, because you can streamline about it, like the accounting, you can streamline that more, right? There's a lot of things you can streamline. I think a valuable thing as a gym owner to do, even if you're not the one coaching, is showing face. Because I know so many gym owners that will like set everything up to the point where it's like they don't even really have to be there, which I know is half the goal, right? Half the goal is so you don't have to work. The problem is though, is like employees start getting kind of bitter about that over time. They feel like you're not doing anything. And I've seen it get ugly a few times where it's like you hire a guy as a manager and he sees you like rolling up in your Hummer and he's like, what the fuck, dude? You're like raking in all the money. I'm doing all the work. What the fuck am I doing here? This is bullshit. And that creates some hostility as well versus like, hey, if you just show face for a few hours a day, spend time training people, talk with people, that goes a long way. And it makes your employees look like, hey, he's just as invested in this as I am. And he cares about this. He's putting time in and work in. It's a little thing that goes a long way. And then members love it too. Members love being able to, I know the owner, oh, me and the owner are cool. Like, you should meet him. He's a nice guy, that goes a long way too, and creating that community and that culture. And, I've seen it so many times with gym owners where it's like, they're just not spending time at the actual gym.
So how are you going to balance that with the California location?
Well, see, with the California location, the thing is that's kind of where like my manager there is very well taken care of. So I think that is part of what will keep that going.
So that's the FaceTime.
That's the FaceTime. Yeah. And he will take care of that for me now, but also too, he's taking care of. That's the other thing too. I think not every gym owner does a great job of taking care of their employees and making sure that they feel like they're valued, so with the gym in California, that's the nice part. The other thing too, I wasn't coaching there, anymore towards the end, like in person. So because of that, there's not really that expectation for me to be around all the time. And, Diego's kind of taken that role. And we did a shift in that before I even left too. So it was like trying to get the members and the gym in general prepared for me not being there towards the end and having Diego become more of the face. So I think if you are going to take that back seat where you're not showing face, you're not there all the time, you need to have someone who's going to replace that.
So how did you build that shift out so they would know that?
Well,
in other words, you didn't do this in a week.
No, it was more like 6 months. Like when I started already looking into starting my gym in Texas, I started that shift right then, where I was like, hey, like I'm going to start, not telling people I'm moving to Texas right at the gate, but definitely, hey, Diego's going to become the manager. He's going to start taking care of this, he's going to do this. And I'm working on some other projects. So, I'll be around here and there, but like slowly, and then making him the new face, and that's kind of the trade-off, right? Having that face, having that person that people can look at and say, oh, this is the guy, right? This is the guy I can go to. This guy I feel comfortable with. This is the guy that is running the show, and also too, making sure that he feels taken care of. So then he feels good about it, and, so that's what I've done there. It's also a different model in that gym as well, because that gym in California is more of a coaching facility. So people already are close with Diego and they're close with the other coaches. They're not really close with me. They don't care about me. They're like, I'm working with him. I don't give a shit about you. You're just a fucking guy, So there, it was an easier transition. I think if you're doing what I'm doing in Austin, it's more of an open gym, kind of like set up essentially kind of like a commercial gym, but similar modeling, if you will. A gym like that's a different story because you have a lot more open gym members that are signing up and their relationship isn't with any of the staff really. their relationship was with the owner, because they say hi to you, they see you, that's important. They don't have like a committed relationship necessarily with a coach because they're not working with them. So it's like, who cares,
So how are you going to balance the athlete mindset?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the big mind fuck with this whole strength sport thing. Is now you're because you've retired. Now that you're retired, you have the facility you always wanted to train at.
Fuck, I know.
When you're in your prime.
No, and I have the people around me too.
All the people around you, all the equipment that you ever wanted, all of it's right there.
Yeah.
But you're too fucked up. You're too beat up.
Yeah.
It's, I don't want to say it's too late, but how do you balance that feed, that's coming in?
I mean, that's been my thing I've been going back and forth on, by the way, since I started this whole thing, and wanted to, when I went all in on this one, is thinking about that. And then when I started seeing the pre-sales, I'm like, oh, fuck, I know that guy. Oh, I know that guy. God damn it. And then now I'm seeing guys. I mean, I remember like an opening day, we had someone squatting 700 for reps raw. And I was like, God damn it. That'd be really fun to like jump in on that shit, and, because I mean, it's half the fun is competing against other people, especially in the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what made Westside so successful. I think people like focus on the program. The program was still great, but
it's the environment.
It was the environment. The environment is what sent everyone to the moon, which is why I think our guys who are competing that are at my gym now, I think they're going to make more progress in the next year or two than they've made in the last 5, just because of being around other strong people. So for me though, trust me, I've been wrestling with it back and forth like every fucking night. I'm like, oh man, should I like, try to turn back the clock and try to see if I can get through it and see if my knee will hold up. Because I blew up my knee pretty bad about a year and a half ago. I tore my popliteal muscle in my knee, which is a nasty one to tear because it hooks up to everything.
How do you do that?
Doing hill sprints. Yeah. Like an idiot,
Up or down?
I was going up.
Yeah,
I was going up. But I was towards the top of the hill and I was just a little fatigued and I just pushed, and when I pushed it went off to the right a little bit and there it went. That was it. So that was a pretty nasty injury, and the problem with it is it hooks up to your like meniscus and everything. So now this knee, I mean, if you felt it, you'd be like, gross, dude, like what the fuck? It's all crackly and like bone on bone basically. So squatting of the 3 lifts would be the hardest one. Squatting would be the toughest. Bench is not a problem. I still can, I think if I peaked it, I can still bench well over 500. And then deadlift, I've been doing a lot of like hinge movements and strongman events. So weirdly enough, my deadlift with a peak and like focusing on it, it's probably better than it was before, just because I've been doing all this building work. I think of all the 3 lifts too, it's the one that you can do the least and come back to and you blow it up. You do some speed pulls just to maintain the neurological, movement of it so you don't lose that. But if you're doing that and then you're doing all this building work, we come back to deadlift, sometimes it rockets. So I wouldn't be surprised if I put true effort into my pull, if my pull went through the roof. The hard one and the riskiest one would be squat for me. That one would be the gamble. That would be the one where it's like, all right, what's the chances of me blowing off my knee real bad? Where it's like, need like a knee construction and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
so what did you find with your own competing, the best periodization scheme? What did you land on?
So I did really well with doing like longer off seasons and basically doing entire periods of, weirdly enough, not really I would always do bench in some, in some capacity, but with squat and deadlift, sometimes I do like months of just doing safety bar or Hatfields, and really sometimes I would go through periods where I just almost do like bodybuilding style, where like after a meet, especially, joints and everything's all fucked up. My knees feel like shit, hips feel like shit. And I do like 2-3 months where I'm just doing hack squats and like unilateral work and things like that, trying to build on like my weaknesses, which
was just higher volume work
and building muscle, building a base. That's the way I look at it. It's like I was trying to build a solid base, and what I also too needed the most work on. I'm very posterior chain dominant. My hips and my back want to do everything, I also have incredibly long legs. So like usually the longer your legs are for squat, usually the more you want to use your hips and your back, especially for raw,
Mm-hmm.
which makes your quads always kind of lagging. But that's your quads are usually the thing that's going to drive your squat up when you're doing raw. So I've seen it with even with coaching people that have like longer legs where it's like, hey, like the volume on actual squatting is going to be low. Like maybe we were just doing even a few sets a week, but we're going to put more emphasis on more isolated quad movements like say hack squats, leg presses, split squats, whatever, even leg extensions, backward sled drag, stuff like that. And that actually drives their squat up way faster because the squat itself is not training their legs. It's not building anything. So I got a lot of that, for my squat. It built up really well, focusing on just building my actual legs and basically forcing my hips, my back not to do the work, not trying to take over all the time. And then my deadlift always got a lot out of doing strongman events. So, loading events, farmer carries, any heavy carry really, and then hinge movements. And as long as I kept my deadlift in there, even if it's just like, 5 to 6 sets of some speed pulls, not super heavy, I was neurologically there. I can turn it on whenever, it was there.
So then how'd you transition out of that?
Transition from like, say,
From that
off
season into the in season, because you're not just jumping.
100%. Yeah. Usually there's like a transitionary phase where usually I do like, say, a month or two of the actual competition lifts and kind of like slowly ramp it up. So let's say, for example, I'm doing Hatfield squats for 3 months, like three, usually that's like 3 blocks. I usually do 3-week waves with a 4th week deload. That works well for me. So say do 3 blocks of like Hatfields, then it's say, okay, we're about 20 weeks out from my next competition, probably doing 2 months or 2 blocks of where I'm transitioning into the competition lifts to get that neurological drive back. Because I think that's, the more often you do something, the more neurologically efficient, right? So if you're doing Hatfields for 3 months, I mean, at the end of those 3 months, you're pretty damn good at Hatfields because you've been doing it for 3 months. But there's going to be a transitionary phase too with getting back underneath the bar and remembering how to do it essentially. So I usually do a couple months where it's more almost technique work that's slowly ramping up, whether that's looking like a 5x5 or even just doing ascending, sets, I never needed a lot of volume on my squat. My squat always progressed best just doing a few sets a week. I never really needed that much volume with it. It always did best with isolation work. So it might look like, say, like a 5x5, and then the next block I'm doing like ramp up sets of 5, working up to like a heavy top set. And then I can start transitioning to triples, then doubles, singles, and just kind of.
All right, so it's 5. So the transition is just 5s.
Usually 5s.
You're pulling some of the shit out.
Yeah, or even just doing ramp up sets. I've done even when I did my last meet, it was like ramp up sets of 5, then ramp up sets of triples, and then double singles. So it was actually just one block to, get used to doing the bar again, getting underneath the bar, getting that movement again. Deadlift, I always did best with singles with deadlift. So I always did better with undulating weeks once it got heavier too. So like my best deadlift was 832. And weirdly enough, I was only deadlifting heavy once a month when I was doing that. I do like a kind of like a medium intensity, like speed pulls. And medium, I should say like 60-70%. And it's usually about 68, pulls with like maybe a 45-second-minute rest, like pretty, And then second week would be working up to a heavy single, like 8-9 RP, and that kind of like just going by feel. But that would ramp up like crazy. I remember I did that for 4 months and my first single was like 720. And then by the time I'm peaking out, it was like 832, And so my deadlift always responded well with just doing heavy singles, doing singles in general. And I feel like with deadlifts too, since it's concentric only, it's kind of like doing a dead bench, right? It's like doing dead benches for reps is kind of silly when you think about it, because the whole point is building the concentric only, right? Deadlifts for me, it was kind of similar. I always did best with like training it like a dead bench, where it's like more just speed singles and then maybe working up to a heavy single just to see how things are moving. But I'm still built to pull too. Like my arms almost go down to their knees. My knees, I don't really need to do a lot of it to get good at it.
I just want to take a moment to let you know about our crew. What our crew is, it allows the show to stay independent. And it's the reason why the podcast is still here now. The podcast is free to listen to, but it's not free to produce. It keeps going because of the sales through Elite FTS, our show sponsors, but more importantly, our crew members. The reason I love this is for many reasons, is it keeps the show independent. So I can pick who I want to speak to. I can pick what topics I want to speak to, and I don't have to be accountable to anybody. I just go off what the crew members want and what the audience wants, and I don't have to deal with all the other bullcrap that's associated with the podcast world. In return, what you get with the crew is ad-free episodes that are released a day ahead of time. You get access to our Discord community, which has AMAs, like 60 ebooks. We try to put a new ebook out every single month. Access to our coaching community with form checks, training Q&As. It also gives you invitations to our training retreats that are out here in the gym once or twice a year. 76% of all the people that joined in 2022 are still members now. Right now, you can either go month to month or get 2 months free with an annual plan. Just look for the link in the description, look at the QR code, or search elitefts.com crew and join today. It means a lot.
So if you're, we'll get into the bench.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But when you're talking about a dead press, for those that don't know, it's just pressing off of pins from a lower position.
Yep.
And it's concentric kind of only, but you still got to lower it. So how are you lowering it? Are you dropping it?
On the deadlifts?
On the dead bench.
Oh, on the dead bench. Oh, I always think you should like still lower it, like relatively controlled. I think like free falling it is not.
Well, I know, but I mean, when people say that they do that because it's the concentric only, you still got to fucking lower.
You still got to bring it down.
Yeah.
But I should say it's eccentric to you're doing the reverse, right? You're doing concentric,
yes,
and then bringing down the eccentric.
Well, I asked because there are some that will
true.
Just drop it, right? And that's the intent of that, is they're not going to lower it at the same tempo.
Yeah,
it's going to be way faster.
Yeah, it's true.
Because of that,
there's
other ones that will lower it way slower, which is like, what the fuck? I don't.
Yeah, I don't think lowering it way slower. Of course, to me, that's like why, but like lowering it to the point where you're not going to bend the shit out of the bar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just being controlled. In that sense, respectful, if you will.
So what was the bench volume? How would you ramp that up?
So my bench, I did really well with like essentially going more crazy high volumes in the off season with bench. Like we'd done like 10 sets of 5, and then following it up with like incline and then chest flies and all that work afterwards on one day. I always did well though. I did really well with benching heavy though, like once a week. And then doing a second day of like more like just volume work, usually with like push-ups and stuff. Like I do like lateral raises, rear delt flies, and like face pulls, stuff like that, rear delt work, push-ups for like high volume. Like when I benched, my best bench in the gym is 520 and my best in competition is 507. When I did that, Josh had me doing 10 sets of 30 on push-ups on my second day.
What's the rest?
A minute. And I was getting smoked. Like I was getting obliterated. Like it's like towards the end of that, I think towards the end, it was more rest as need, just to get it done. But we started off with like 10 sets of 10 with like a minute rest, and then kind of tried to progress that as far as you can. And eventually just became like rest as need, just get the volume done. And then doing some, general lat work, lat pull downs, straight arm pull downs, triceps. You're basically just working all the little muscles involved in a bench press. I did really well with that. And I think I've seen that happen too with like shorter armed. This is where I think like, so I forgot to touch on this. So like when I was in college, I actually double majored. So I did kinesiology and physics. And the physics part actually, I feel like has been more helpful than the kinesiology part. I mean, don't get me wrong, kinesiology part definitely helps, but you learn like levers and stuff can make a giant difference, right? So like if you have, say, crazy long arms on a bench press, you're going to have more shoulder rotation in general. So that means your shoulder's going to take on more strain, which is also why I encourage people with longer arms to bench with especially for raw, to bench with a medium closer grip. The wider you go, the more exposed your pec and shoulders are. And I learned that the hard way. I tore my pec. I did my best bench like inside the rings, like super close grip like this. And, but also too, that means you're probably going to recover a little bit slower too, so guys with shorter arms, I noticed they can get away with benching a little bit more frequently, until they get crazy strong, obviously. When you get
Yeah.
to like the freaks like Julius Maddox or something, I think he benches heavy like once every 10 days or something like that, you know? So, I did my best benching heavy once and then doing just more of like, kind of like a pump session, just, you know, working every muscle, but just kind of get like flow and working there, but not doing anything heavy to allow my joints to recover, allow everything to come together. But in off seasons, it would definitely be crazy high volumes, really like bodybuilder borderline approach, trying to just, again, build that muscular base. That was a fairly easier transition for me with bench, just because it's like, say you're doing like 10 sets of fives, then you slip into 5x5s, or you go in 5x5s, 3x3s, and then you kind of shift into 3-2-1, peak up for the meet. So bench was a lot more seamless because you're still doing the actual bench press, versus with squat and deadlift, it wasn't always as seamless in a way, just because you're getting away from it entirely.
Different lifts.
Yeah, you're doing half field squats or deficit deadlifts, or sometimes no deadlifts at all. You know, when I did 832, I wasn't doing deadlifts at all in my off season. I was just doing heavy carries, loading events, and like RDLs, which is similar, but you know what I mean? Not really actual deadlifting. And then we just transitioned with like speed pulls, and then, you know, transition to actual peaking mode at that point. But I think that's a valuable thing that more people are doing now, is they're realizing that the off season, and what I mean by off season, more hypertrophy kind of phases, can be incredibly valuable. It's where strength's actually built. You know, the triples and singles and stuff like that are really fun, and you know, they definitely, of course, you want to do them when you're peaking for that neurological effect, but they're not your bread and butter for getting the absolute strongest. The repetition work is where you actually get stronger.
Yeah.
And you work on your weaknesses and shit. You know, if you're just fucking maxing out every time and then you're not doing any repetition work to build your base up, it doesn't mean you're not going to probably make any progress. You're probably gonna get hurt too. You're going to get fucked up.
Well, if I look at, they're not beginners, so we got to exclude that, because the beginners need to learn how to do the skill.
Yeah.
But if I look at two lifters that are intermediate and they're both taking a year to train, and one does the triples, you know, basically the powerlifting specific year round all the time.
Yeah.
And then the other one kind of has the off season, as you're kind of talking about, and then kind of leads into the meet, but they both just do one meet. At the end of that year, both of them from year over year are going to show pretty much this. One's not going to extremely outperform the other.
Yes.
Right. They're always going to be kind of about the same, plus or minus. So I just going with averages here to kind of prove a point. But if we look at what's under the surface there, the one that's doing that all the time, if we look at wear and tear on the joints with the specific movement pattern being repeated over and over and over and over, which some of those guys are doing this 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Right. So over and over again, 3 or 4 times a week, 52 weeks out of the year, how many, you know, exposures is that? 52 times 3, you know, 160 some, you know, close to 200 exposures in that joint, in that same movement pattern over and over and over and over. Is why we have a whole profession called occupational therapy, because people that used to work on factory lines doing the same shit over and over and over would get all fucked up.
Stress.
And then they would need an occupational therapist because they got fucked up doing the occupation over and over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have that on that one side, and on the other side, you have half the exposures.
Yep.
Right. Maybe even way less than half, probably 30% of the exposures, and the same result at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You know, if you go on the averages. So just common sense.
Yeah.
Will tell you which one
is going to
makes more fucking sense.
And also, if you can last longer, you can progress longer.
Yes, that's the key.
That's the other thing. That's why you see intermediates especially never make it to advanced, because they get too fucked up.
Yes.
You know, they get way too fucked up. Usually the difference maker between an advanced lifter and an intermediate lifter, well, there's a few, of course, you know.
Yes.
The biggest one obviously is muscle, right?
Genetic.
And genetics too.
Yeah.
I mean, genetics is
the
absolute number one.
Obvious.
That's the obvious one. But like the other factors would be muscle, and then just being able to last. You know, I mean, that's the other thing. Like when I first started competing, I would do sometimes 3 shows a year. Towards the end, I was doing 1.
Yeah.
You know, and I wish I did 1 in the beginning. I wish I knew better. You
wouldn't learn as much, right? So you can recover at that point.
Exactly.
But to me, it all comes down to the number of exposures in that specific movement pattern, where I can throw a conjugate out there and say the exposures are even way lower because the movements are changing all the time.
Crazy lower, yeah.
But so it drives it even lower than that. So there's less exposures, but there's longer longevity.
Yep.
So it's a game.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can make the other point that the more exposures are going to create a faster outcome.
Yep.
Especially with the beginner kind of going through, but they're not going to last as long.
Yeah. It's like the candle that burns too fast, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is, especially the intermediates, I say like with beginners, it's technique, right? It's building that technical base. And that's like, say you had a food pyramid, right? Your bottom's your technique. Because if that's shit, that's going to catch up with you before you even make it up to the top.
Yeah.
The next level, I would say primarily, is going to be your muscle. How much muscle do you have? This is actually really funny. So I remember when I think I was 17. So what would that be for me? That was like 2008. I was in high school. And I remember someone told me, yeah, if you call Westside, like Louis answer the phone. And I was like, no way. Like, all right, I want to pick his brain. I want to ask him. And so I called the, Westside, and it's like Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell. And I'm like, holy shit, this is Louis Simmons. And I was like, hey, I'm benching 315. I want to get to 405. I'm 17. What do you like? Can you give me some pointers here? Like, and he talked on the phone with me for like 30, 45 minutes, which is, by the way, the nicest shit ever. Like, I remember being, hey, I don't want to take you away from whatever you're doing. Like, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. No, went out of his way to help me out just because I was willing to even have the guts to call him. Right. But I remember he told me, he was like, well, the thing that's going to get you to 405 is you're too small.
Gain weight.
You need to gain weight. You need to gain muscle. You're not big enough. So you need to get bigger and you need to get stronger. But you need to get bigger. And so he told me, I remember then, he's like, I wouldn't even bother doing speed work, which it's funny because like, if you were watching the tapes, that was like the thing he was pushing the hardest. But he was like, no, don't even bother with that right now. You're not strong enough for that, even if it's going to help you. He's like, do more repetition work stuff, do dumbbells, do whatever, try to build a muscular base. You need to do that first before you even think about that shit. And I remember hearing that, and I remember like being like, okay, that makes tons of sense. Like, I had my technique was decent at that point, but the thing that was separating me from, say, benching 405 was really just gaining weight, gaining muscle, gaining size. And I think a lot of intermediates today miss on that because you see them doing SPD every single workout, but then they're never putting on any muscle. So they never are able to get that point. Then, like you said, they're getting all those exposures, the repetitive stress over and over again. That shit adds up. Versus, I think if they were like, you know what, instead of say squatting 3 times a week, I'm going to do, say, maybe squats once or twice, and maybe you still maintain the frequency, because natural lifters, generally speaking, do respond better to a higher frequency. But I've had like my natural lifters progress really well, say doing like, hey, say in their off seasons, right? Maybe they do their regular squat to maintain that pattern, but then they're doing a second day of hack squats and a third day of like sled drags and, the good girl, bad girl, whatever weaknesses they have to build up the muscles they need to build their squat in that offseason, but also to lower that repetitive stress, give their joints a break, allow things to heal up and feel good. So then you're not feeling like shit all the time. And also so you'll last. Yeah. You're not going to last if you're doing SPD 3-4 times a week. It's going to chew you up and spit you out.
Some can, right? Some can.
That's where the genetics come in.
That's where that comes in. But even with that, if you look at how they do that, the volume and the intensity is not what most people think it is.
Yeah.
If you really look at what they do.
Yeah.
Right. Some of those secondary days are not heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, not heavy really at all. It's just the technical skill, just keep that motor pattern, optimized for whatever they're doing, but it's not what people think it is.
Yeah.
And that's any program's not what people think it is.
Yeah.
Right. You can look at anything and you'll think it's one thing, but then if you have the person that designed it take you through it, it's not what you thought it was.
No.
It's harder in some places that you didn't think were going to be hard.
Yep.
And it's really easy in the places that you thought were going to be hard.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's weird how that all kind of plays out and kind of runs through there, where with the lifters that you work with, how do you work with the mental aspect? And if we're talking more the intermediate, the beginners, because, and by that, I mean, you'll see a lot of them, they'll start to strain and they quit.
Yeah.
Right. They don't understand that sometimes it's just hard and you got to keep pushing on it.
Yep.
And because that's the thing that you give up if you're doing that off season and all that other kind of stuff, because maybe it will happen on like the 12th rep.
Yep.
But it's different than if it happens on that first rep.
I think so. A fun way so strongman stuff is in general really fun for a lot of people. It's also a sneaky way, especially on squat, to get people exposed to some heavier weights in a way that is a little more approachable. So for example, a common thing I like doing with intermediate lifters where it's like, say they're like, you know what, putting a heavy barbell on my back when it gets really heavy, like I said, an AMRAP of say 70% of their max, they'll strain on that. But then when it starts to get heavy or whatever, they're like, oh shit, this is heavy. This is kind of freaking me out. Do some yoke walks in the off season. Then you're at least getting that mental exposure of having that weight on your back. So when that transition does happen, when something's heavy on your back, it's not punching you in the face as hard. You know what I mean? And that's another way to work on someone's weakness too. If someone's chicken shit every time they get underneath the heavy weight, sometimes even doing like holds. Like I've had people do that in the off season on bench just so they can stay used to it. Say you do all your volume work and at the end, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to have you just bring out the bar and just hold it, for 5 seconds, not even go down with it. Just hold it. That can mentally keep you not as afraid of it when it starts getting heavier. And that's definitely a thing that's more common with intermediates, beginners for sure. And sometimes you just have to find like a non-intimidating way, if you will, to expose them to it. So then when it does happen, it's not, like I said, that punch in the face where it's like, oh shit, this is heavy. Because especially with beginners, if you get that face on them when they're like, oh fuck, this is heavy. It's like, it's either a make or break for a lot of them. I found ways to like make that less of a break, is simply by giving them little exposures that aren't as scary. For beginners, sometimes it's just, like I said, those walkouts, for like 5 seconds with a squat, especially if they're leading up to like their first, like working up to a heavy single, that can be helpful leading up to that. So it's just not as jarring of an experience for them. I think too, with the advanced lifters and even the intermediate guys as well, it usually have two personality types. You have ones who are like not going to do enough, or you have ones you have to pull the reins back on. The ones you have to pull the reins back on, in my opinion, are harder to deal with because they want to fucking max out every time, or they want to go crazy hard all the time. I think a lot of that is where you have to teach them, well, okay, you have to shift their focus. It's like, okay, you're going crazy hard in the gym, but your diet sucks and you're sleeping like shit. And, you're fucking chasing girls every weekend and drinking and partying or whatever. How about we put all that pent up energy you have into this stuff and try to get them focused on that stuff and have them go hard on that. Now that's easier said than done, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you get them to see the results of it though, that sometimes can be the kicker where it's like, hey, you focus on getting 8 hours of sleep, for a month and look at your progress, like how everything's feeling. Maybe if you keep putting energy into that, you'll continue making progress. So I think you gotta chip away. Right. And I think it's another thing with beginners that really helps too, is like you layer it with, what to work on. You start with like, say, hey, let's work on getting your technique dialed in. Let's do that. Okay. Now, usually the easiest one to work on is sleep.
Are you looking to extend your career in the gym? It's one of the questions that I'm asked most frequently. I'm Dave Tate from elitefts. When it comes to longevity in the gym, I look no further than the support gear that you're using. By support gear, this is one of our custom-made blockers, by the way, strength equipment, elitefts.com. I know a little bit about it. I've been doing this for 4 decades. So wrist wraps, straps, belts, knee wraps. There's so many different types of support wear out there that where we can help you the most is we only provide the stuff that's the best. So if you're looking to extend your longevity in the gym, head over to elitefts.com, top toolbar, power gear, hamburger blowout, power gear.
Okay, let's try to get your sleep more consistent, get into a routine, All right, next thing is let's start working on your diet. Let's start doing that, If you get genetic freaks, that's harder to do because they just get strong as shit.
They still need to learn it later.
So that's why you can kind of get them to do it though when they're in that intermediate phase, or even if they're starting to top out when they're advanced, you try to get them to do it too, where it's like, hey, even if I've even done it for free with guys where I'm like, hey, you're pretty fucking strong. let's like, let me write you a nutrition plan for a month for free, just so you can see it, and let's just follow it. Let's just give me a chance here. And then sometimes that can go a long way, because then they see the results of it and they're like, okay, this is actually worth putting time and energy into.
Well, it will go a huge way, because as you were talking earlier, the lifters today are different than the lifters that they were, say, 20 years ago.
Way different. Yeah.
Right. And that's because the nutrition component's been exposed more. Because you take the lifter that you're talking about, you introduce this nutrition component, they're probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. But you introduced it. So in their brain, they're thinking, okay, this is part of it, but fuck that for right now. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
But they just connected, this is part of it.
Yep.
Right. So later, when they're exposed by somebody else in a different context, it's like, oh, it's that again.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I'm not going to do it. Same way most of us all were.
Yeah.
Right. And then the fifth time it gets exposed, it's like, okay, this is part of it.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And all that's, I think's happened because of social media and the more dialogue around these things.
There's more information.
They're being exposed to this, that this training thing involves sleep, recovery, nutrition, all these things.
Yeah.
This makes up the whole sphere, and they're being exposed to that as soon as they decide they're going to be serious.
Yep.
Where for a lot of us, we weren't exposed to those things until years into it.
Yeah. I mean, I was eating Chinese buffet and shit, you know what I mean? And like, you know, oh, how many burritos can I slam down before a big squat workout? Like,
So if we need to
it's
see
way
it,
different than now.
let's say we need to see it 100 times before we're actually going to embrace it, right? And well, we're seeing it in bodybuilding magazines and thinking, fuck, we don't bodybuild, whatever, so we're not paying that much attention to it because it doesn't really matter. So for us to see it 100 times took fucking 8 years.
Yeah.
Right. For them now, it takes 2 days on Instagram. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think also too, getting exposed to strong people is easier too now, because there's more of them.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you have a bigger population of strong people too. So it's like, let's say you're a pretty strong guy and you're not giving a shit about your nutrition at all. And then the guy who is, all of a sudden, he was close to you, but now all of a sudden he's surpassing you. And you're like, shit, he's beating me now. Well, he cares about his nutrition. I don't. Maybe I should start caring about it. So there's also that aspect as well. It's not just the exposure on social media, but I think it's also the exposure in person.
Mm-hmm.
You see the people that are doing it, and you're seeing the results of them doing it and the benefits of them doing it. And you're like, shit, maybe I should do that too. So you're more likely to do it.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I mean, shit, I think back when I started lifting in 2004, I think like if you try to eat like a bodybuilder, everyone just thought you're a pussy. Like they're like, what are you doing? Like, eat some real food. Like, what are you know what I mean? Like, it was a totally different mindset. And I remember my uncle, he was like, he knew, like, he was around some like rough biker crowd in the Bay Area back in the day, and he knew Lee Moran. I remember like I was looking at Muscle Fitness magazines, like, no, don't look at that shit. Look at this. And it's like Powerlifting USA. And that's kind of how I got into it so young. He's like, look at this. This is like real man lifting. Like, get into this, It's like big dudes like squatting huge weights and doing big stuff. Like, oh, this is cool, But the thing is like you said, the nutrition aspect wasn't the thing that was ever discussed. It was always the training and always, okay, how do you optimize this program or optimize this training style? What is so-and-so doing that's working well? There was still that part of the equation that was being figured out.
Well, there's more lifters that are part of this industry.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I started competing in 83 and competed all the way to 2004. And that whole time I always trained within powerlifting crews.
Yeah.
As I'm sitting here, I'm hard pressed to think of more than one person I trained with in that entire time that worked in this industry.
Yeah.
Most of them worked in completely separate industries. This is what they just did.
Yeah. It was like a side
on their free time.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not in the industry to be exposed to all these different variables. They're in the industry of their own fucking job. They get in the car after the job, they come in, be able to train, and then that's their exposure to that industry. Now, I don't even know what the number is. But if you go into any powerlifting crew, half of them at least are in this industry in some context. They're either trainers, coaches, or something.
Way more common.
Yes, way more common. So they're around it,
Yeah.
right? Which is those more exposures to all these different things that are in there.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to think about.
Well, part of it is too, is that back then you couldn't make money doing this shit. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier. It's like now you can be an athlete and be like, hey, I can actually pay the bills if I'm a good enough athlete, you know? Or yeah, I can pay the bills being a coach, being an online coach, whatever, do my first meet. Hey, I didn't make money doing this and this is fun. I enjoy this. I can actually do it. Back in the 80s, even the early 2000s, that wasn't even on anybody's mind because you couldn't make money doing this shit.
No. And I'll tell you what, because they would have.
They would have if they tried.
Would have. Like they'll sit there and they'll say that they wouldn't have, but I know for a fact if, compared to bouncing, selling drugs and all the other things that you would do to be able to pay for the sport.
Yeah.
Right. What's more attractive, doing those things or actually being online, sending programs out 100%. To people? There's not fucking one person that I knew that I ever trained with that did those type of jobs.
Yeah.
That would have been like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm just going to, just fucking bounce and be in cigarette smoke for fucking 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Well, and I think a perfect example of this too is like, Josh is like, I love Josh. He's an amazing coach, amazing mentor of mine, but Josh is kind of proof of that. Cause when he went to Metroflex in Arlington, I think Brian Dobson's is the guy who owns it. He told him the trainers never made it here before. Like it made money. And now look at him now. Right. It's like you said, they just had to try. I think part of the reason why people thought that, hey, you can't make money doing this is because no one ever tried. And that's kind of what it comes down to for a lot of things. Someone eventually has to try and see if it can actually happen. It's just like even lifts. Before, squatting 1,000 pounds in multiply used to be a big fucking deal. Now we got people doing it raw, right? And so someone just has to try. Someone has to give it a shot. Someone has to prove that the impossible is possible. And I think that's what happened with the industry too. I think even Louis proved it with selling the Westside tapes and selling equipment. He proved it. He said, look, I'm giving a shit. I'm putting time and effort into this. I can make money being a hardcore gym, like being in the hardcore gym industry. You proved it, with elitefts, yes. Right. I think someone just has to try. Someone has
a
to
lot of times they have to be aware. Like the only reason Louis made the videos is because people like you would call him on the phone and he was going fucking crazy because
I'm
you
sure
didn't understand what the fuck he was saying.
Yeah.
Right. So he just wanted to have something that he could give the people that he wouldn't have to keep repeating year over year over year with every single person on what it was.
Yeah.
And then that was the reason why he made them. It wasn't like, I want to make money, I'm going to make these videos. It's like, I want to make these videos because these fucking people are driving me crazy.
They're bothering me.
And I can understand why you didn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah,
Listen to any seminar he's ever done.
Yeah.
You'll not understand what the fuck he said.
It's confusing as shit.
It's confusing as shit. Yeah. So that was kind of the reason there where, and the same thing with the online coaching. The reason it started is because somebody was answering questions on a forum or some shit like that. And they just kept answering the same question over and over and over. And then somebody just said, hey man, can I hire you? Yeah. And at first they probably said no. Yeah. Right. And fuck that. And then somebody said yes. Right. But they were aware, they were looking around. It's like, okay, this is a thing. I guess I'll try it. Yeah. And then when somebody starts to be successful at it, everybody else comes in for different reasons. Yep. And a lot of times they're not successful because it's the wrong reason. Yeah. That they'd be able to come in, but that's how the markets emerge.
Yeah. For sure. Mike Teixeira is a good example of that. Remember he had the little RTS forum and he had guys kind of probably like, what Louis was dealing with, asking the same fucking questions over and over again. He's like, dude, I wrote a manual, like just read the fucking manual. But with him, I think the forum was really smart because it got people talking, it got people interested, it got people asking questions, which it becomes a funnel, right? To them being like, you know what? I've tried for 3 years trying to figure this shit out. Maybe I'll just, get it from the horse's mouth and like hire him. And it creates this little funnel to your online coaching. And I think that's how a lot of it started. I think also too, it's also like results is a big thing too. I think that's another.
What has to work.
It has to work. Yeah, exactly. So it's like with him, it was working. Same thing with Josh. Like Josh became a really, known name pretty quick just because what he was doing was working.
It works.
It works. He's great. So, but I think, I think the guys back then, I agree with you. I think, what was this? Doug Young, remember he used to work with Arnold as a size coach, it's like he was doing it back then. I believe that if he kept like pushing it hard, he probably could have really done something. Fred Hatfield is a great example too. Like he went in on it and he was successful because of it. He did well. So the capability was there. Just no one was like putting the energy. There wasn't enough people putting the energy into it. Versus now, it's like you can see it. Like you see, oh, look, so many of these coaches are successful and making money and doing well. I can make this a viable, career. So there's more of that, which for me as a gym owner is actually great because that means it's easier to find good coaches in a way to work at my gym.
Yeah.
Before, I think as if you're a gym owner in the 2000s, I mean, shit, it must have been next to impossible to find a good one. It must have been really hard to find good coaches versus now, fuck, you can throw a rock in most cities and you hit like 5 of them, that actually know a damn of what they're doing. And also the information is out there too. So it's like, and you could reach people easier. I mean, shit. I mean, just having the ability to even sit here at this table right now and be talking to you. It's like, hey, I can actually reach out and get connections with Dave and being able to pick his brain about stuff. I can have that opportunity to do that now versus I think 20, 30 years ago, that was harder to pull off or next to impossible.
No, I was hiring trainers in 2000, right around that area. And they'd have certifications.
Yeah.
But they didn't know how to do any lift to save their fucking life because that wasn't part of any of these things. They knew fucking, METs and cardio equivalents and all the other kind of shit.
Yeah.
But when it came to actually teaching a fucking lift, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And that was just all of them. Every now and again, I would find one that knew, but I couldn't hire them.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the fucking college degree and the education that was required for them to be able to work where they're at.
Yep.
And which was frustrating.
Super frustrating.
So, because the training to be able to get them just up to speed on how to do a fucking dumbbell curl was ridiculous. And now that's not the case.
No, now it's the opposite. And I will agree with that too, in the sense that education does not mean it's valuable. I'm not saying it's not. I think anybody who says it isn't is a fool. But with that said, education without application doesn't mean shit, and there's even quite a few that are like that today still, of course. But like, I feel like that was way more common back then because it was harder to get good information back then too. It was harder to find and meet people that didn't know how to teach a squat, didn't know how to teach deadlift, bench, whatever, even a fucking dumbbell curl. It was hard to find people that can actually teach it to you. I believe I got super lucky, the guy I worked with, his name was Mark Woods. He was like a bodybuilder, powerlifter guy. I grew up in a small town called Knightson, like 900 people. But he had like a little barn in the back of his house, and he had like a group of guys that are pretty strong. But the thing is, those guys were pretty strong. Like we had a couple guys benching 500 and doing like good stuff. I got exposed to people who knew how to do stuff right out the gate. So I got real lucky there, And then when I was in San Diego, like Nazar was training at Nazar Islambadi. He was training at the gym I was training at for a little bit. So I remember going up to him being like, hey, I know I'm like some shithead little kid, but can I just I don't even care if I'm just putting plates away for you. Like, can I just watch and I'll do whatever. So he let me do that. He let me watch him work out. I just put his plates away for him. I did shit like that just so I could learn. I got lucky in that regard. Most people don't get that lucky, where they can get exposures to people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And you got to be willing to also go find it. But I got lucky in that regard. Now it's easy. No one has to get lucky anymore. You can find a knowledgeable guy, go to his seminar, talk to him. You can even talk to him directly, get a hold of him really easily. And you can get coaching from these people real easy. So now there's not really a good excuse anymore.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Back then, yes. Because if you're in the middle of buckfuck nowhere in Wyoming and you can't afford to travel and go meet people, I mean, that's going to be hard to.
Well, keep in mind, most of them didn't work in this industry, right?
Yeah,
so if you're going to try to get a hold of them, they got a job.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not going to get a hold of them because they're fucking at work.
It's like not even possible.
Yeah.
Versus now it's like that is their job. So it's like, hey, if I want to hit up so-and-so, go to their seminar, or even just pay for them for a phone call, whatever, or even be able to travel to their gym because now I can actually get a hold of them and all that stuff. You can do that now. So now there really isn't an excuse to be a shitty coach at this point.
No,
there's no fucking excuse, which is why when I see it, it pisses me off like nothing else. Cause I'm like, dude, that's just lazy. You have access to 20 times, a million times more knowledge than I had in 2004 when I started. You know, there's no excuse for you to not be a decent coach, at least, you know. I think it's also why the lifters today too are so freaky. I mean, we're like, fuck, I remember like in 2010, 2012, like if someone totaled 2000 raw, it was like a big deal. Now it's like everyone, their fucking mom's doing it, you know? And part of it is because of the access to knowledge, because of the access to good coaches, because people know, hey, nutrition, recovery, all this stuff matters. That to me is the biggest beauty of social media and the internet when it comes to, you know, the growth of powerlifting and strongman, but also the athlete growth, you know, is because they have access to this information. They have access to these people that they necessarily didn't have access to before.
Oh yeah. And the technical side, they know the technique matters. Where, God, for a long time, people just squatted. You try to tell them, you know, hey, you want to try to do this, and it's just whatever. They're just going to keep doing it the way they were doing it. Yeah. Where now, as soon as they're exposed to any of these sports, the technique is they want to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. That wasn't the case. They wanted to know how to do it.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to know how to become better at doing it. Right. That's a big component.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment because we do read the comments, and one of them that keeps popping up more frequently than not is, I can't believe this video doesn't get more views. Take a minute to subscribe, leave a comment, and share. It really does help.
Yeah, I mean, I think a perfect example of that, funnily enough, is like Greg Panora. You know, he talks about how his form was shit, and he was just strong as a fucking ox, and he was just a freak. He's a perfect example. It's like, he was just strong as fuck. He didn't really care. He didn't really need to care, you know? But when he did start to dial it in, there was a big jump in his strength for sure. And being around a crew of guys that were like helping him with it definitely is going to help him a ton. So, and every now and then you will get a guy like that at a meet that's just like training at a commercial gym, doesn't know, and he's just gripping and ripping 700, and he's just a genetic monster. And it's like, oh my God, please, like, if it's not me, somebody, so you can fix your shit and you'll be pulling 900 in a year, you know? Which is another side coin on that too, where it's like, even as the athlete now, you know, if you're doing decent, there's also weirdly almost no excuse now too, because there's too much information out there. Do a little bit of effort on your side to learn your craft that you chose to do. And there's not really a good reason to have that shit be falling apart at this point. You know, you can do simple Google searches at this point, and you can figure your way around getting decent technique or finding somebody who can teach it to you, you know? So I think that's the kind of the cool part. There's all this like, because I mean, I'm sure you do it too. You go back and forth on the benefits of social media, right? Where it's like, oh, is this really good? Is this really bad? Is this bad? Is this good? Whatever. I think the biggest positive is that I talk about it with tattooers as well, because tattooers fucking hate social media, and the good tattooers are like, oh, they're just making content and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but it's also forcing every artist to be better now too. Like the level of like quality is so much higher. The level of quality of athlete and coach and everything is also exponentially higher than it was 20 years ago. That's to me the biggest positive.
Well, yeah, well, it's a tool.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It's a tool. Yeah.
Where if I don't know how to use a saw, I can cut my fucking finger off. Like a lot of power tools I don't know how to use, I can really get fucking mangled using them because I don't know how to use them.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Social media is the same way. If you know how to use the tool and you understand that all these companies are manipulating the algorithm to be able to get you to hate things. Yeah. If you know that, then you can ignore that aspect of it and use the tool for which can benefit you the most without getting sucked in to the negatives of what that tool is, which it is really fucking negative. Yeah, there's a bunch of negatives too. If you understand the tool, then you understand the pros and the cons of that tool. Yeah. If you understand what the cons are, then you can mitigate those. Yeah. 100%. If you don't know what they are, then you're going to be subject to whatever influence that's going to give you. Yeah. That's on you. 100%. Right? 100%. You know, so you know that, then you can, like I said, you can use that, and you can also understand that it's not real. Yeah. You know, you see what you see on powerlifting, then you go into your gym, they're two different environments. Way different. But it's the tool to be able to help educate. You use it for the tool that it is. And so to that, it's a net positive. But I guess it could be a negative because it doesn't come with instructions.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Actually,
and that's the biggest negative.
Yeah. Well, there is. It's in the terms of service. None of us read.
Yeah.
But we just kind of click through.
Yeah.
But that would be the thing there. But it's not going away.
No.
And because of if you learn how to use it, that's the thing there. Most don't.
No.
But if they learn how to use it, then it's huge. Any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
Great question. Trying to think here. I think the only thing I want to touch on a little bit is just like, this kind of goes for like the coach, gym owner, athlete thing. I think whatever thing that you go in on, you got to go all in on it. I think that's another thing that I get to touch on as well. It's like when I chose like, hey, I want a total 2000. Yeah, I went in all in on that. You know what I mean? When I decided to open my gym that just opened up in Austin, it's like, I'm going all in on that. And I think now this is kind of the social media influence as well, a little bit too. I think a lot of people don't go all in as much as they should, and commit to, this is what I'm doing, and sticking to that path and seeing it through, I don't know. I mean, I was, before coming in here, I was reflecting a lot on everything I've done, and how far I came. I mean, I came from poor dirt, nothing, I started my gym in fucking backyard, with a few dollars to my name and just trying the best I can, but I was always all in, that's the thing. I was always all in. I never hesitated or had a plan B. Plan A was plan A, and there was no plan B. If you start thinking of plan B, it distracts you from plan A. You have to go all in on it. So I think if you're going to be a coach, you want to be the athlete, you have goals that you want to do and things that you want to accomplish. You have to go all in on it and see it through. You can't hesitate and not give it your all. I think that was something that, like I said, it's just something I've been thinking about. Like I said, what got me to this point, where I'm sitting at this table versus me when I was 20 and I dirt ass fucking poor, living in like a trailer and trying my best to get by. And now it's like, I have this amazing facility. I own 2 gyms. I've told 2000, for me right now, it's like, I feel like I've accomplished a ton and I've gone forward. And I don't think I'm the smartest dude out there. I don't think I'm the best dude out there. I think there's definitely people that are better than me. But I think the only reason why I got to where I was is because I went all in on it. I just never gave up on myself either.
Well, I think that what people, and I don't know if this is a new thing, but the way I see that difference there is there's people that want to do a thing, but they want guardrails on the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's people that are going to do the thing and there's not going to be any guardrails.
Yeah.
So the guardrails, if you're going to speak about going all in on something, some people will say, well, I'm going to go all in on this, except I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm only going to commit 8 hours a week or whatever it's going to be. Where the other person's like, I'm going to go in on this and I don't give a fuck if I have to work 20 hours a day.
Yep.
I'm going to work the 20 hours a day. I don't give a fuck if I got to do this, if I got to do this, if I got to do this. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Where when people want those guardrails, it's like, well, I'm going to do that, but I can only do this for 30 hours a week.
I have work-life balance and like shit like that.
Yeah. So the guardrail.
Yeah.
Right. So every one of those things is a guardrail.
Yeah.
Right. The word optimize is a fucking guardrail.
Yeah.
All these things are guardrails. So anytime you see those, to me, it's like, okay, guardrail.
Yeah.
And every time you push in that guardrail, you're pushing how much longer it's going to take. And there's no guarantee you're going to get there in the first fucking place.
No.
Right. Most don't.
Right.
So you're going to go all in on this thing and it may not fucking happen.
Yeah.
Right. Most times it's not. So you're going to go all in on this thing and you're going to just go and go and go. Yeah. But the more you have those, you push in those rails, the higher you're pushing that up towards the top.
Yeah.
The wider those rails, the better opportunity you have to be able to make it happen.
Yeah.
But other people around you are going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to do things that you're very uncomfortable doing.
Yep.
And all those everybody wants to be uncomfortable doing new things and all this other kind of shit, but they want to do an ice bath or whatever the fuck is easy that takes 2 minutes to do.
Yeah.
Like, do something that's uncomfortable that's going to take fucking 300 hours.
Yeah. It's like sometimes the right way is the hard way. Right? Always is. Generally speaking, if it's an easy fix where you just flip a switch, that's probably not the answer. It's the hard way. And I think that's something that if there's going to be any advice at the end of this that I, outside of what I've already given to the gym owners and people who want to be lifters or whatever in general, and like high level and anything, is whatever it is, you got to throw those fucking guardrails away.
Yeah. Well, I would add to that is, as you take those away and you have to work towards this thing, whatever the thing is, for you to work towards that thing, you're going to have to acquire new skills, right?
Yeah.
If the training is going to be the nutrition or whatever it's going to be. When you go to acquire that new skill, learn the skill. Don't just learn what you need to know of the skill to be able to get the result.
Yeah.
Learn the skill. So if it's in business and you're like, fuck, I'm not getting the leads, and you got to learn paid ads.
Yeah.
Like, learn the paid ads.
Yeah.
Like, develop that skill. Just don't learn how to put one ad and hope that ad works, and it works, and then you kind of keep going. Because if you do that, then while you're moving through that, you're acquiring all these other skills.
Yep.
To where when that road stops and you have to go on a different road, you have these skills that you've acquired that you can use, which is different than just bumping the skill.
Yep.
To be able to, okay, I'm just going to eat a little bit here to be able to recover.
Yeah.
Is that you don't really understand.
Yeah.
Like, so take the time to understand the skills that you're acquiring, because that road will end at some time.
Oh, you're going to hit a wall.
And then because you don't want to be all in on this thing, get through that road, the road ends, and then you're sitting there like, fuck, this is all I know.
Yeah.
Right. Which usually isn't true, because they do know those skills.
Yes.
They're just not aware that they learned those
skills. I would even argue too, that if you do hit that wall where you're like, fuck, this is all I know. It's like, okay, but then you probably weren't all in to begin with then, because you were just biting.
Yes.
You're just nibbling your way up. Right. And I think that's like that's why I'd say, like, if there's anything I want to give advice to with anybody who has like some big goal, is whatever it is you want to do, you have to go all in. I that's the commonality I see with anyone with a successful business, a successful lifter, a successful coach, anybody in this industry. The commonality they all have is they went all in on it, and they were willing to do whatever they needed to master that thing and do the best they can at it, whatever their abilities were. And that's the commonality I see with that. And they're willing to, like you said, throw those guardrails away and be like, no, I have to do whatever I can I'm going to learn whatever skill I need to do. I'm going to learn whatever thing I need to do. And I'm willing to also be an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know shit. I'm going to go learn. I don't know shit about this. I'm going to go learn. I don't know what about this. I'm going to go figure it out. I think that flexibility on being willing to, and that humility to have too, to be like, you know what, maybe I don't know everything.
Well, the truth is you don't
know shit. I mean, fuck, the more I go forward in this industry, the more I realize I don't know fuck all, and I think my greatest gift that I had for myself is I had that mentality since the start. And it's funny, like, even coming in here, it's like, I had like imposter syndrome, like, fuck, do I really belong here? Like, there's been so many like amazing people that have been on here. But in a weird way, that's kind of how I like came back to. It's like, no, that's why I do. It's like someone who thinks they're good, right? Usually someone who thinks they're good is a bad person. Mm-hmm. Someone who thinks they're a bad person is usually a good person.
Well, someone who thinks they're good is not.
No, they're not. So that's where I think it's like, go in with humility, and go all in on whatever it is. I think people can accomplish a lot more than they think they can with that attitude. It's, no one's going to give it to you. No one handed it to you on a silver platter. It's going to suck no matter what road you decide to go on. It's going to be really fucking hard, and it's going to be more than you expected too, but I feel like the reward at the end, or not even at the end, but just the rewards of being able to look back and be like, damn, I fucking did that. So that's worth it.
That imposter syndrome is the dumbest fucking thing I ever have heard. And I don't remember the first time I was exposed to it, maybe 6 years ago. And I didn't even know what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
Somebody had to explain it to me. Then after they explained it to me, I'm like, so this is the dumbest fucking thing in the world. So you're working through here, and now you have a word for before that was a phrase.
Yeah.
You would start to feel whatever that is and be like, okay, I need to become better. I need to learn.
Yeah.
Which is the solution. But now I have imposter syndrome. So I'm a fucking victim.
100%.
And now, you know, I'm not going to do those things because I really don't need to be here. So you're just wallowing in your stupid fucking syndrome.
Yeah, not doing anything.
When the same thing is, it's like, forget that. Even it's the dumbest fucking thing.
I agree.
You know, because if it didn't have a word for it, you know, or a phrase, 2 words for it, it needs 2 fucking words instead of just one stupid. You know, if it didn't have a word for it, then you would just realize, okay, I need to become better.
Bingo. And that
never goes away.
Exactly. And that's kind of my point more than anything, is like those feelings you have of that. It's like, no, you gotta have to lean into it.
It's the same feeling you had the first day you went to school.
Yeah, the first day you walk into a gym, you know? But I think that's the thing. It's like, I think you have to lean into that. You know, you lean into that feeling. You don't run away from it, you know, where you're like, oh shit, like, I don't belong here. I don't do this, I don't do that. And then I'm scared to walk through the door. You know, it's like, you don't do that. If anything, you lean into it. You say, you know what? I don't know fuck all. I don't know this. I don't know this. And you have that mentality forever. You know, I feel like you go so much more forward versus worrying about, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, maybe I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. It's super stupid.
No, it's so fucking stupid to me because you're rewarded for overcoming that feeling your whole life.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure we kind of feel that way before we could walk, but we didn't know it.
Yeah.
But like I said, the first day of school, the first time you tried to swim, the first time you've had sex, the first time you did fucking any of those things, you were rewarded for it.
Yep.
Right. So you have all these positive rewards up to a certain point. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Now it's a bad thing. Like, I don't get it. So then when you've done that to this extreme, then now you're just in this different venture. Yeah. It's like, okay, here's this new venture. I'm going to go all in. And then immediately you're kind of like, fuck, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go in a little different than what I did before.
Yeah.
Right. So it changes.
Yeah.
You know, each new venture you go in because you're stupid. Yeah. You know, so but that's where the mind fuck comes in, because sometimes you'll see something like, man, that looks interesting. You're like, nah, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to go all in.
Yeah.
There.
Yep.
Right. Because you know what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, it can feed you, but it's a beast. It can kill you at the same time.
Yeah. But don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point. It's like, don't be afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
Lean into it. Lean into that feeling, you know? And I think that's where all the rewards, especially in the long run, start showing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
How can people go about finding you?
Best ways to find me is on social media. Fortified and Mortified is my handle. Also find my gym in Austin is Fortified Iron Gym. And then Backyard Barbell in San Jose, California is also on Instagram as well as Backyard Barbell. Those would be the best ways to find my businesses and find myself.
All right. Great talking to you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
having me on.
We're done.
Thank you.